As a preliminary matter, this is the Conservation Commission meeting. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. I saw enough of the body. I don't think everybody here is here yet, nor should they be. It looks like a long agenda, so we'll skip that part. So, good morning, afternoon, good evening. The script has a good morning / afternoon evening. I obviously need to stay a word ahead of myself. All right, so good evening. What day is it? It is the 18th of August, the Tuesday of 2020 open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Conservation is convening by Zoom as posted on the agenda, which can be found on the town's website. Let's see. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference. Let's see. Meeting materials were provided to the board members, to the commission members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak, and if needed, share information to the screen. Please state intention after you've been called. So the ground rules for how we go through this. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking. Please use earbuds with tablets if available. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Board members should be called upon in first name alphabetical order to ease the process. If the commission members wish to engage with each other, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After the board members have spoken, the chair will afford the public comment as follows. I will seek questions through the raise hand function. This function can be accessed by clicking on the participant option listed in the menu below the photo gallery. On the bottom of this participant area, you will see the list of participants, and on the bottom, you will see the ability to click on a button to raise your hand. Please ensure your name is displayed. List your name, address, and then your question. Telephone participants can use their phone keypad while on a Zoom meeting to raise their hand by hitting *9. I will seek questions from the public that have hit the raise hand button in the order in which they are listed. The participant will be called on to identify their name and address and then their question. I will afford the applicant or their representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your question. The board will continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again afford the applicant or rep an opportunity to speak. Should there be a physical or electronic submittal of questions or concerns, they will be read for the record, and again, the applicant or rep will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Everything will be done in this manner. So, all right, that's my preamble. So, yeah, let's get started. The first thing I think we need to do is I mentioned to Bill Holt that in the other business, at the end of the agenda, I do want to have a conversation about scheduling a meeting to discuss the town bylaw and some ideas that some members have for it. And we'd like to, I think Bill and I have decided that maybe a separate meeting would be the appropriate way to do that. And so if it's okay with everybody, tack that on at the end. We're just going to amend the agenda. So unless anybody wants to tell me that's an awful idea, I think we should probably hop in to our long list of to-dos. So anybody? No? Okay, cool. Let's see, going down our agenda, it looks like we don't have any minutes, which is great. And then it looks like Tim and Judith Wareham at 10 20th Street have a continued RDA to replace an existing storage shed is our first to do. So Bill Holt, would you like to introduce us?
Sure. So you want me to introduce that project or?
Yeah, sure. Go, you do your bit, and then
Okay.
we'll let Tim and Judy speak up.
All right. So at the last hearing, we went over some specifics on the project. They're going to replace an existing shed in the same location, and the same footprint. They agreed to raise it to 2 feet above the existing grade at a minimum. And I think we asked for some pictures, some diagrams of the proposed shed, which we have. I can share those if you'd like.
Whatever you think, Bill. I'm going to let you do this one. That's fine.
All right. I don't know if can you see these pictures now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is let me get the correct picture. This is a picture of the front of the deck. Over to the right is the house, second level deck. This is the front. Front again. This is the back side of the deck. Existing shed. This is the side of it. You can see it's pretty low to the ground right now. It's it had to be raised 2 feet above that grade to match to get the requirement of the bylaw. And that's the side. You can see it's about 1.5 feet off the fence, which is where it's located now. I'm going to call up the proposed design plan that they had prepared and sent in. And this shows the floor plan. First floor, storage area. This is the front, that's the back. Second floor is a much smaller area. It's just this little area right here, and it's like because I don't know deck to the second story.
Oh, Bill, I'm not sure if we're seeing what you're showing.
Yeah, we're not seeing any pictures, Bill.
You're not seeing this?
No.
Okay. Says I'm screen sharing, I'm not?
You are, but you need to click on the picture, I believe, the PDF to open it. There you go. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that?
No. No.
We saw it briefly.
I think your connection just may be slow, Bill.
Yeah. Got it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. New technology. So they have the floor plan as part of this sketch shows the first floor. The second floor, which has this area right here, is the second floor. That's below, I believe. And it has elevations of the left side, the front. This would be the right side as you're looking at it from the right side of the property and the water side. And then it has a nice rendition of it, what it will look like. That's the proposed new shed. And we also have, if I can stop this share. And oops. Can you see that one? This
Yep.
is just
Yep.
just measurements, ties down the shed to the existing house, so we know where it is, and in the future we can take measurements to make sure it's in the same location and hasn't changed. So this is the information I think we asked for at the last meeting. I don't know if you want to ask the applicant if they have anything else to add to the discussion. Again,
No, that sounds great. So thanks, Bill, for going through all that. So Judy and Tim, do you guys have anything to add?
No, we're just replacing the existing shed, which is probably, I don't know, at least
About
as old as the
100-year-old.
house. It used to be this actually house used to be a boys, I believe, a camp. And actually that was where the boys used to sleep, in that shed. So it's the original timbers and everything in there, and it's,
Falling apart.
Okay.
we've nursed
Well,
it.
then,
So there's not much more we can do to keep it going. And it's too low as well. So, this will make the whole thing better.
Great. Well, then in that case, I'll go to the commission. Let's start with, well, Ben's not here, so I guess Bill Lord, you're alphabetically in order, it looks like, right? If we go by first names.
He's having audio connection problems.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's move on then. Who's next? Dan. Dan, you're up.
Okay, the architectural renderings there didn't really, I didn't quite see the 2 feet. And I just want to confirm that there's like 2 foot clear from the ground.
We will make sure that there was no clearance when it first was given to us, but absolutely at the last meeting, and it will be the 2 feet that you require on the diamond piers. The diamond piers, and this thing can be as high as, well, I don't know, Bill was telling me they can go higher, but whatever's required, though, there's no issue. When it's not a driveway, it's not there's nothing we're going to be rolling in and out, so it doesn't make a difference how high it is. Makes it better. The higher it is, the better for us.
It's less likely to flood.
I mean, it's, it is like 2 feet of air underneath everything to allow the sand to migrate, to allow, so, it's always often been recommended that people actually make it a little higher, because if the sand drifts in there before your certificate of compliance, you might have some compliance problems.
Mhm.
Just as long as it's clear, we're talking air, not ground to floor level or anything like that.
Yep.
That's fine.
We have no issues. It's all sand back there anyhow, so that's fine. We actually put sand in there to keep it sand.
Okay, no problem. I'm all.
All right, cool. Thank you, Dan. Kevin, what do you have to, any commentary?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Peter, how about yourself?
Fine, thank you.
Great. Bill, do you have audio yet? Bill Lord?
Might have bumped off.
Hmm,
Reconnect.
yeah.
Oh, no, he's still there.
Yeah, he's still there. I've got his video, but his audio is, it says connecting. Maybe he's calling in. Anyway, well, I don't have any concerns, just echoing Dan, as long as the paperwork shows the 2 feet, that's fine. And I think that's something that Bill Holt can handle, that's no big deal.
I'd like to be able to have a pre-construction meeting with the applicants and their contractor before they begin construction, so we can go over that to make sure that they get it right, so there's not an issue.
Not a problem.
Okay. And we could write it up that way too. And then, so let's see. I'm trying to wait for Bill here.
Do we have a quorum without bills? Verbal, okay?
I'm not sure.
We have
Um,
1, 2, 3, 4. I thought it was 4.
we
gives
got
us a
4 out of 7. I
That's
think
quorum.
4 makes quorum, right? It's just got to be a +1 majority, right?
I believe so.
think it-
Yeah. Well, then I suppose until Bill figures this out, let's just move along because, you know, if we've got our +1 majority, then great. So this was the RDA, and like Bill Holt was saying, if we put some language in about having a pre-construction meeting, and you know, some language to the effect of just making sure Bill Holt gets all the paperwork he needs with that 2-foot showing, and then, you know, I'm willing to, you know, humor a motion. Anybody?
To issue a negative determination.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Peter. All right. So let's do our roll call. Since I'm alphabetically first, I. But then after that, we'll go down to Dan.
Yes.
All right. Kevin
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. So negative determination is good. Doesn't sound it, but it is. And Bill Holt will walk you through that later on. Hey, Bill Holt, just for the sake of brevity, do you want to skip sort of the timeline script that we usually talk about, or do you want to do that anyway?
I can do it briefly. I can do it pretty quickly. So once
All right, go for it.
once the hearing is completed and closed, the commission can issue its decision in 21 days. And then the applicant has a right to appeal the determination issued under the act within 10 days. Or any abutters, 10 residents of the community, and the Mass DEP can also appeal within 10 days. And those are 10 working days, not weekends or holidays. So that's the once we issue that, you have that 10-day waiting period before you can begin construction. And maybe next time we don't have to do it.
Yeah, and actually, sorry, Gretchen, you didn't see anybody with a hand up about this, right? I totally skipped the abutters.
I did not see
Okay.
anyone.
Okay, thank you. Unless anybody wants to, you know, wave at the screen because our audio doesn't work, we'll assume that there's nobody here that wants to talk about this. All right. All right, great. You guys are all set. Bill will be in touch with that.
Thank you, everybody.
And we will move on to our next item.
Thank you.
All right, great. Sure thing. So Michael Noyes, 11 Moody Street, a continued RDA to construct a new driveway and parking area, relocate large boulders, and reloam and seed. Do we have Michael, our representative, in the audience?
I can speak now because they have asked for continuance until September 15th. They do not have access to computers to be able to attend the meeting, and Mr. Noyes would really like to be present at the meeting and speak in person. So we're gonna have to continue to September 15th and hope that we actually meet in person. So if the board would allow a continuance, that would be in order, I believe, at this point.
Okay. Anybody want to motion to accept the continuance and punt till?
Move to continue until the 15th of September.
Seconded.
All right, thank you. All right, roll call vote. Aye for myself. Bill, can you hear me?
Can't hear you, Bill.
I
Yes.
can't hear you, Bill. How your mouth move? All right, Bill said yes. Perfect. Daniel,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. So that we will hopefully see them on the 15th. Right. So moving along, we have Jill Mandragoras at 7 Gerard Way, a new RDA to extend an existing front landing. Jill, are you here? And did I ruin your name?
You did, and I'm here. It's miserable.
Well, I hope you don't hold it against me.
No, all the time. It happens.
All right. Well, then, Jill, why don't you introduce us to the project, let us know what you want to do, and then we'll turn to Bill Holt after that.
Okay, so we have a front landing that is approximately 4¼ by 5½ feet. It has very little utility. You can't open the door without, if we have anything in our hands. So what we'd like to do is just extend it to either 6 by 10 or 5 by 10. So basically adding about a foot wide and no, I'm sorry.
A foot to frontage and
Yes, a foot
2 feet on either
on the
side.
front, and then 2 feet or 2½ feet on either side. And we would be taking out the sonotubes and putting in the diamond pier footing. And that's it. We're not enclosing it or.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So then, Bill Holt, I presume you've been out and had a look.
Yep, I have, and have some sketches that they provided, which I can add, share my screen and show to you. As soon as I find them. Can you see this one? This is a picture of the front of the house.
Yep.
As you can see, it's a raised house. It's above the floodplain. It's at elevation 13. So the new landing is going to be at the same elevation, elevation 13. So we'll have more than 2 feet space between the existing ground and the height of the bottom of the deck, or bottom of the landing. I did some calculations. They're at 15.58% coverage right now, which is under the 20% allowed. With the addition of this new landing, it's a little bit larger. They go to 16.99% coverage, which still complies with the bylaw. Replacing the diamond foundations with the diamond piers is a good idea and will help eliminate some disturbance underground. So I would think this is a pretty reasonable project, scope-wise. They also have some plans. This is a record plan of the existing house. Oops, probably can't see it yet. This was a plan that was done back when they built the house, and it indicates the elevation of the house is 13, which is above the floodplain elevation. Kind of gives you the grades around it, so it all complies with the bylaw that they're proposing. Let me give you one more sketch. This is the record survey plan. Shows just the lot itself, not the lot's right here. So it shows the boundary of the lot, but they meet all the requirements of the bylaw. So if there's any questions, I'll hand it over to the commission.
Yeah, I've got one or two, but I'll let the rest of the commission go first. So Bill Lord, are you audio available? That's a no. Sorry, Bill.
Can he
Your
call on
mouth's
his
moving.
phone? Can he call in on his phone?
I think he is. He's holding his phone like he's talking into it.
Oh.
Hey, Bill, put it on speakerphone. Did you do that already?
Is he muted? Is he the
He
603?
doesn't look muted.
He's not muted, but
Was he the 603 number calling in?
hold on.
Bill, is your number 603?
Can you unmute that?
Can you give a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
That? Unmute your phone, Bill. There you go. Can,
Now speaker. Now put on speaker.
no, he's unmuted.
Can you put it on speakerphone, Bill?
All right. Well, Bill, you just keep trying to figure out what's going on. We're gonna keep going, unfortunately. If you've got anything dramatic to say, just wave crazily and text somebody, I guess. I don't know. So then, Dan, how about yourself?
The only question I might have is just, it doesn't sound like there's any lattice or anything of that nature on this. It's just a set of stairs, goes to the ground, diamond piers. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. All open. Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Okay. Thanks, Bill, or Daniel. Kevin, how about yourself?
I don't really have any comments. Thank you.
Okay. Peter?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. I think my only comment, my only ask might be Bill Holt, if you're going to go out and maybe do a pre-construction and just have a look and talk about sort of trash. You know, I presume there's going to be some hauling away of stuff, and you know, there's going to be excess materials, and you know, just have a look and you know, make sure that it's a clean project, so to speak.
Right.
But that's about it. That's the only thing on my mind. So at that point, you know, with that little addendum there, how about the motion? Anybody for a -2 determination?
Move for a negative determination.
Second.
Brilliant.
I'll second it if you can hear me.
Thank you.
Hey, we heard-
Hey!
Oh, here we go.
Hallelujah. Well done, Bill. All right. So we've got our negative and the seconded. So Bill Holt, that's your cue for your script.
Okay. So once the meeting's been closed and the commission has made its decision, known as a determination, is within 21 days, the applicant may appeal the determination under the act within 10 days, as well as the abutters, 10 residents, or the community, or Mass DEP can also appeal in that 10-day appeal period. Once the appeal period is up, you can begin construction if there's been no appeal. So, thanks.
Brian, I don't think we went through the roll call. Did we?
Did we?
No.
You're right. I did skip that, didn't I?
Just want to make sure it's official, so then.
I was so excited by Bill Lord having audio, I got distracted.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, go ahead. You can vote.
I vote yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Daniel. Kevin.
Yes.
And Peter.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Thank you, Kevin, for the reminder. Anyway, so yeah, you guys are all set.
Thank you.
And Bill will be in touch.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. So now we're moving on. We have Luis Johnson at 28 Main Street, a new RDA to upgrade/repair a septic system and associated grading within the 100-foot buffer zone. So is Luis our representative in here somewhere?
Yep, so that's me, Rob Carlazon.
All right. All right, why don't you introduce the project and then we'll go to Bill Holt.
Sure, yep. So my name is Rob Carlazon. I'm from Grady Consulting. We're the engineers that designed this septic repair plan for 28 Main Street. We filed an RDA application as recommended by Bill Holt. Do you want me to go in and kind of explain the project, or do you want to go right to Bill?
You do whatever you think is helpful or appropriate, and then we'll turn it over to Bill Holt.
Sure, okay. So basically, we have an existing house with an existing barn and existing garage on this property. There's an existing septic system in failure. I think there's an existing cesspool and a cesspit that I think they're over 100 years old. I think they're just starting to fail now. So basically the plan, we're going to pump and fill the existing cesspool and pit. Then we're going to install a 1,500 gallon septic tank, 1,500 gallon pump chamber. We're going to run a 2-inch force main around the back of the house over to a leaching field, over to a D-box, and then to a leaching field made up of Presby and Viroseptic wastewater treatment pipes. Basically, we kind of had to put the septic tank and the pump sort of in the area where we're proposing. That's sort of where the plumbing coming out of the house and the barn meet up. And the leaching field is kind of where we have to put it. We did a lot of soils testing on site. So this was sort of the only area that we could put this leaching field based on the soils that we found. We do have a proposed silt fence running from the barn through the backyard and then around the house for erosion control. And that's pretty much, that's the main idea there. So I don't know if there's any questions from you guys.
All right, let's turn it over to Bill Holt then for the moment.
I started to share my screen. Can everybody see it?
I see a screen, that's not mine.
You can see the screen on my screen at all? Can you see the plan?
Yep.
You see the plan? Okay. So the wetlands is back here, identified with flagging. This is a 50-foot setback, which is a Title V setback, and this is the 100-foot setback. So they're almost out of the 100-foot setback with the leaching area, which is a Presby system, which is actually a pre-treatment system, so it actually treats the effluent better than a conventional system. And they're pumping and dosing it, so that'll also help it improve its treatment. The tanks, like he says, are in the location where the existing plumbing is, which is why they're pumping it up to the front. Did some test pits over here. I noticed those, and the applicant's engineer provided me the results of those, and those are not good locations for a septic system. There's shallow depth and fill material that's not suitable for a septic area. It would have been nice to probably put it there because there's a little more room, but they can't do it, so they'll have to put it where they have it, which is the best location for it. It said the existing system's located back in here, which is in the 100-foot buffer zone. That's going to be backfilled, collapsed, pumped. So I think it's a pretty good solution for the issue that they're having. I think it's appropriate as long as they follow the plan with the erosion control, which is the silt fence they're going to install along the line here and come back to the house, so it protects this area when it's being constructed, and then along here to the barn. I don't have any issues with the plan. It seems to be appropriate.
All right. Thank you, Bill. All right, let's go around the horn. Bill Lord, any comments, any questions?
No, if Bill's good with it, I'm good with it.
Okay. Daniel?
No question.
Okay. Kevin?
No questions here either.
All right. And Peter?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. I think, Bill Holt, my only comment would be similar to the last one. You know, if you want to do a pre-construction and just make sure that the site work is kept clean, I agree it's a pretty straightforward project. But, you know, if you want to write it up with, you know, dotting I's and crossing T's, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, I think a pre-construction is a good idea in all these permits.
Okay. So then, do we have any neighbors, any hands raised?
No abutters, I do not see any hands.
All right. Well, then in that case, anybody want to make a motion?
Is this another negative determination or is this an RDA?
Yes.
Yeah, another -2 would be what you'd be motioning for.
Yeah, I move for a negative determination.
Second.
All right. Okay, thank you. Let's go around the horn. Bill Lord,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. So, Bill Holt, that's your cue for your timeline.
Okay. Upon a negative determination, we have 21 days to issue the determination. And as the applicant, you can appeal the determination under the act within 10 days. Any butter or 10 residents of the community or the Mass DEP can also appeal within the 10-day period. If no appeal occurs, then you can start construction after the 10-day appeal period is over.
All right. Well then, presuming there are no more questions from our representative, then you are all set.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see, moving on, what do we have next? We have Amy Speak at 22 Longbrook Road, a new RDA to upgrade/repair a septic system within the 100-foot buffer zone. And do we have Ms. Speak or a representative?
I'm here on behalf of Amy Speak. My name is Jim Scanlon. Again, on behalf of Amy Speak at 22 Longbrook Road. As part of a septic system upgrade, we filed a request for determination. There's an existing 4-bedroom dwelling that has a septic system in failure. It's located in the front yard. There's a resource area, wetland resource area, which when the plan comes up, we can take a look at, but it was delineated by Julie Von Drock. There are 19 flags. We're proposing a new system comprised of a septic tank, a pump chamber, and then it's pumped to a leach field that utilizes Presby EnviroSeptic pipes. The leach field at its closest point is 69 feet from the wetlands. As you can see there, you can see the wetlands flagging 1 through 19. Yep, to the right of the driveway and to the rear of the house. The Presby field will be 13 by 62. We're also installing 2 small walls, older retaining walls, one by the driveway and then one to the north of the system, the leach area, right by the debuff. Yep, right there. There will be grading in the buffer zone. Pretty much, we tried to squeeze this system, you know, as far away from the resources we could get it while maintaining Title V requirements for size. I would open up for any questions.
All right, Bill Holt, you want to walk us through what you've seen?
Yeah, this is very similar to the last project. There's not a lot of choices to alternatives to site this septic system. That as far away as you can get it from the wetlands boundary. 69 feet, meets Title V requirements, which is 50 feet. And again, it's a pre-treatment system, so it treats it better than a conventional system. It's being dosed, so and it's got the silt sock erosion control barrier in place along the driveway, downgraded any grading on both sides of the system, including on the north side. So it's again a good solution to the situation. I don't see any improvements that could be made about what he's proposing to do. So I think it's an acceptable plan.
Okay. All right, let's round the horn. Bill Lord?
No, sounds like the best plan you can have. I'm okay.
Okay. Daniel?
No questions or comments.
Kevin?
Same thing. No comments.
Okay, Peter?
Nope, no comments.
Okay. And I will just repeat myself, I suppose, Bill Holt, clean project and maybe a pre-construction if you feel like it's needed or appropriate or anything like that. Write that in. That seems reasonable.
Pre-construction to see the silt erosion control and would be, at the same time would be appropriate to just to go over the project, make sure it's in good shape for the construction.
Okay. All right. Well, then, anybody interested in the motion?
Move for negative determination.
Butters?
Thank you. I'm rushing again. Do we have a butters? Gretchen? Anybody?
There are no hands raised. So I think you're good.
All right. Kevin, that was you, right?
What was me?
Oh, did you have the memory about butters? I think because it was the middle of your vote, right?
Sure.
Peter.
Yes.
Okay. And I also, aye. All right. Bill Holt. No, not you, Bill.
What's that? So the
too many bills
can be issued within 21 days, and as the applicant, they have a right to appeal determination, so should they wish to, within 10 days. The butters, 10 residents of the community or Mass DEP can also appeal the decision within 10 days. After 10 days are up, you can begin construction.
All right. So then, barring anybody else speaking up last minute for anything, it sounds like you guys are all set.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Who do we have next? We have Clary Cotu for Keolis Commuter Services Railroad Right-of-Way, a new RDA to perform vegetation management, control, and maintenance activities for the years 2021 through 2025. All right. Who do we have for Keolis?
So for the record, my name is Timothy Dermody. I'm the agent representing Keolis, who is the operator and the maintainer for the MBTA's purple lines. And we submitted the VMP as well as the RDA on behalf of the railroad.
Okay.
Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yep, let me make you a co-host. Hold on one second. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
For some reason the share button isn't lighting up.
Okay, you are a co-host, so that should work. There you go.
Okay, there we go. All right, so I'd just like to start off by, I know it was in the RDA submission, but for anybody that might be in the public, over the last 5 years, we thought it was important for all of this information to be available to everyone. So we've set up a vegetation website for the railroad. We represent a couple different railroads. But on this website, you can see the different vegetation management plans, both the ones that have been approved and the proposed, as well as you can see all the town's maps, which makes it very useful for the community as well as the commissioners. We also post all the yearly operating plans on here as well, and the approval letters from the Department of Agricultural Resources. So let me pull up your map. So this is Newberry's map. So we submitted the RDA in compliance with 333 CMR 11 and some specific sections of CMR 10. We submit them to the commissioners for approval. And that approval lasts the length of the vegetation management plan, which is 5 years. Most RDAs are your typical 3-year. However, vegetation management plans are for the full length of the plan, which is 5 years. We go through and check these on a yearly basis. So every 5 years, we have to resubmit the vegetation management plan and the RDA. And then on the yearly operating plan, we submit that to your commission every year, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, and DAR as well. We work with DAR, and they provide us on a yearly basis any new wells, private wells, or anything that are listed. We go through on a yearly basis and see if there's any updates to the Mass GIS website for any of the wetlands. I hope in the future that they change the regulation a little bit to make the scale of the maps a little bit better. But that's just a personal gripe, I guess. Keolis, as far as the maintainer of this railroad, is responsible for the vegetation management. Over the last 5 years, we've changed the vegetation management plan slightly to improve it, and we've added an integrated vegetation management approach to this. So we're doing our best to minimize the amount of herbicides that we're applying on the railroad. So I'd like to go over the map real quick with you, so you can see the key. There's a couple different rivers that are of concern. Parker River's obviously the larger one. And then you have Little River that comes off here. And the detail of the map, I apologize, it's just the way the layers are. But the Little River comes up and scrolls up right alongside of the railroad. So the yellow zones are a no spray zone. The light blue or single blues are a spray only once per 1 year interval. You folks do not have a double blue zone, so I will skip over that. One of the other details that I'd like to point out is areas that have not only yellow, but a blue. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with the application of this, but the herbicide applicator rides along the rails in a truck and has this boom, rear mounted spray boom on the back. And he has the ability to shut off portions of this boom. So in the locations that they're only spraying one side, like here, they'd be spraying this light blue section once a year. They're going to be shutting off a portion of that boom. Same with up here. They're only going to spray, the westerly side of this easterly track. Keolis makes every attempt to reduce the amount of herbicides that are applied, which is a big part of their integrative vegetation management approach. Herbicides are expensive, so by no means do we want to just go out there and use herbicides wherever. So on a trees and different invasive species, they're going to cut them and treat the stumps. During the application, RWC's the applicator. They've been applicators in this state for over 20 years. They're very familiar with these lines. However, over the last 5 years, Keolis has hired an environmental monitor that rides along with RWC and reads these maps and tells them where to spray and not to spray. Make sure that they don't spray in any standing waters that might be in ditches or anything. The environmental monitor also works closely with the engineering department, who's out there doing track repairs or replacing ties, because in different areas of the railroad that have been disturbed during routine maintenance, vegetation's not going to grow. So we reduce the amount of herbicides that are applied in those areas. So this is, for Keolis to employ somebody in-house full-time for this, it shows their dedication to the environment and the public and the safety of their employees. This map has not changed since the last submission back in 2016. As part of the request, we were requesting a -5 determination, just like the commissioners gave 5 years ago or back in 2016. So at this point, I'd like to open the floor for any questions regarding either the vegetation management plan, yearly operational plans, or the map. So yeah, I'll open the floor.
All right, thank you. Bill Holt, why don't you go first?
I really don't have any questions regarding the application. I don't really see any. I can't see any issues with it in terms of they've been doing this for many years, and I think they understand what they need to do and how they do it. So I'll defer to the commissioners for any questions that they might have.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So Bill Lord, how about yourself?
I'm good with it. I think they know what they're doing.
All right, Daniel?
I'm just sort of curious if that environmental monitor or some report is delivered to the conservation office every year or periodically? Or...
No, so on a yearly basis, we submit a yearly operational plan, which works with the vegetation management plan, but it's more specific to the program and that yearly spray. So over time, herbicides, the species of vegetation will become resistant. So we'll mix up the herbicides, which are all pre-approved by the DEP and the Department of Agricultural Resources. And all the rates are dictated by them. But so we switch up the application of different herbicides depending on what the species are and the different years. So as far as what we submit on a yearly basis, that would be it. However, as part of the requirement, the environmental monitor does keep records, and we need to make sure that that's one, it's not raining and it's been dry. We don't want to, spray our herbicides into any water or a saturated soil, because one, it's not good for the environment, but two, it's just a waste of their product and their money. And like wind and stuff like that, because if it's high wind, we're not going to apply any herbicides because you can get a little bit of drift, and we don't want the herbicide going anywhere except where we want it directed. So those records they have to keep, but they are not submitted to the 103 towns that they operate through.
But it does sound like there's perhaps continuing oversight from the state agencies.
Yeah, I mean, if the state agencies want to come in and check their records, then they can. It's just like us submitting the yearly operational plans and advertising them. We have to keep records of that, and we have to mail everything to you folks and everybody else by certified mail, and we have to keep records of those. The Department of Agricultural Resources also goes along and does audits with the applicator to make sure that the applicator is competent. And like I said, they've been applying, RWC has been working here for a good part of 25 years, I believe. They've done work for us in other states, and they're a stand-up company, and they're very knowledgeable.
I think you've covered. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right. So then, Kevin.
I'm okay with it.
All right, Peter.
No questions.
Okay. I do have a question. Tim, could you speak a little bit to the logic behind the yellow sections, which I presume are the no spray sections next to moving water?
Anything specific as far as the map, or in general?
More general, just, the question I have has to do with, the tide, and the tidal wetlands that are here in the map.
Okay.
And if we have a no spray zone on moving water, where there's rivers, why the tidal wetland isn't also a no spray zone.
Yeah, so, and it's delineated, and it's part of the definitions for the zone 1 and the zone 2. So there are marking plates out on these tracks that coincide with these colors. And they're in the middle of the track, so the applicator and the environmental monitor can see them while they're riding along with these maps. So it might be low tide, but the marking plates are set with that buffer zone back from the wetland or the protected resource. And that's why I wish they would change their requirement on the scales, because they dictate the scale. And we do have a couple towns that have requested, even though we're going by the CMR, they've requested that we zoom in at a couple locations so they can see. The other thing that we do on a basis, because they have a lot of miles to go over, but we will go out there and walk the tracks, and we take a GPS now, and we locate all these plates, and we upload them into GIS. And we didn't do it last year because my business partner sadly passed away, so everything got mixed up a little bit, but we had been doing one of their lines every year, and we had been working with Rimmer Environmental to make sure that the delineations were proper and the plates didn't have to be moved, or if they had to be moved, we would move them and take new coordinates. We are working on another, a plan to start continuing some of their other lines. So we had done a couple of their lines and making sure that everything was, up to date, even though we're going off Mass GIS and meeting the requirements. Keolis wanted to do the due diligence and make sure that they're not, spraying herbicides into wetlands or water resources or people's private wells or in, endangered species habitats. So I hope that answered your question.
It's good to hear. I'm glad to hear there's some follow-up and follow-through and whatnot. But unfortunately, it doesn't answer the question, but it actually adds a little bit to it. You said that there's more detailed maps that some towns request, and if there's a way to sort of amend the submission with maps above and beyond to sort of clarify the detail, that might be helpful.
Yeah, and that's the funniest thing too, because like a town can request it. However, we're meeting the regulations and the laws set by the state. So it's a little weird because we're meeting all the standards, and I know every town operates differently, so I completely understand that. So we do go a little beyond what we have to just to make certain folks happy. It does obviously cost more money. And that's why I said I wish they would just change the regulations, because we're meeting the state's requirements, and we're meeting what's required to be submitted for the RDAs. And then it goes on to the burden of the towns or cities to approve these maps in this scale. So it's tough.
Right. So we have to work with the map we're given
Right.
for this process. But, the questions sort of that I'm asking about why the river gets a certain treatment because, it has water flowing 24 hours as opposed to the tidal wetland, which, arguably, could have a 12-hour water flow, why it gets treated different. And you're saying that answer lies in zooming in on the map, and that doesn't get shown.
So let me make this clear. Like, we're not spraying in that tidal zone. And it's just what I was trying to convey was that if these maps were at a zoomed in scale and more accurate, you'd be able to see that, that we're not spraying in that tidal zone. So we're meeting the requirements based on zone 1 and zone 2. So in these different sections, like the light blue that you're looking at here leading up to the bridge, that's only getting, an application once a year. And depending on the zone and how the plates are, it's getting this section right here, just where that end of tie to end of tie is. So if there's anything over in this area that's a wetland and that does not meet their requirement for the buffer zone and the setbacks of, say, 10 feet, they're literally going to spray just this ballast section right in the middle. And that's just to make sure that the track inspector can inspect the rails and they don't have a derailment. And you don't just have commuter, you also have freight traveling on this. So we don't want a derailment with injuries to people riding the train, or we don't want oil spills in this tidal range or anything. So it's very important that we spray as much as we can for the safety of the public. But through all those zones, for the most part, we're only spraying that end of tie to end of tie. And that's, that's part of the environmental monitor too. Because someplace where there isn't like the marshes or the tidal zone or any of that stuff, there could still be like standing water in a ditch. And we don't want to be spraying anywhere where there's water, because that water is going to flow somewhere. And where does it flow? It flows into your rivers. It flows into the streams. We don't want to be doing that. So that's part of having the environmental monitor right along with them.
Okay, that explains it better. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So then, the way when you answered Dan before, the town doesn't get those reports, and the town would have to go get them themselves? Like they would go into the website you were showing before?
So those reports are retained by the railroad, and I think they have to be requested by the Department of Agricultural Resources. It's not something that's like a public record, but they have to, I mean, it's just like me mailing out 5,000 certified mailings every year for the yearly operating plan. I keep those here in a file. And if the Department of Agricultural Resources wanted to come and audit us, they could come up here and make sure that we posted in the Boston Globe prior to the application, that we sent it out to everybody that's supposed to be receiving it. And surprisingly enough, sometimes the conservation commissioners or Board of Health and stuff will not sign for the certified mail. So we end up doing 2 or 3 mailings and have to call people to inform them prior to applying that, look, we submitted a yearly operating plan and you have to, acknowledge that it exists. But that's not a public record. However, they are required to do it by law, so they do. And I can't remember if it's, okay, so here you go. So these are the daily field report for the vegetation control activities. So this gives you a little bit better idea of what they're filling out for a form on a daily basis. And back years ago, we used to ride along with, it was the MBTA back when I had done it. But we would be along with them, reading the maps, making sure that they were filling out these forms. Under state law, the licensed applicator also is required to keep a record of this. So in this case, RWC is the applicator, and they're the ones filling out these logs, and they're the ones that are required to keep a copy of this. And they will get audited from the department on a yearly basis, depending on where they are. And they do ride-alongs with, the Department of Agricultural Resources does ride-alongs to audit the applicators. So it is heavily regulated, and there is a lot of oversight here.
Okay. So I think, what I'm getting out of this mostly is that there's lots of people looking, but if this body wanted to know, we'd have to go through 2 or 3 other layers of institutions to get to the eventual.
Yes, that's correct. If you wanted to know, like, the wind velocity and temperature and, stuff like that, yeah, that would be a daily record that's not uploaded anywhere. It's kept in a file. So it would be an audit by a state organization. So not on a local level.
Yeah, like the acres treated, talking about just running the main line and not hitting the edges of the rail bed that are up against the tidelands, and seeing what time the spraying happened compared to what time the tides were in on a given day, would be interesting. But that appears to be a neither here nor there kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So unless anybody else an abutter or another member wants to ask any more questions or follow up with anything, I suppose we are at a point of taking a motion.
I don't see any abutters or anybody raising their hand.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a first.
Second.
Dan, was that you?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, thanks, Dan. All right, well then, let's go around the horn. Bill Lord.
Yes.
All right, Daniel.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
All right, and I'm just gonna say no because I'm being cranky, not because it's a bad, it's not a bad RDA. I'm just cranky about the process, but I'm outvoted.
I am too.
All right, so Bill Holt, it's your turn. Although I suppose, Tim, you know all the dates and calendars and when things can be done and when they can't be done. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, well, Bill Holt, yeah.
Once the hearing has been completed and closed, the commission has 21 days to make the determination. Once the determination has been issued, the applicant has the right to appeal that determination within 10 days. Or at the abutters, 10 residents of the community, and Mass DEP can also appeal the decision within 10 days. You have to wait till 10 days are up before you can do any work on the project.
All right, so sounds like you're all set, Tim.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah, and thanks for, getting a little deeper into that with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to me at any time. So.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, bye. You too. All right, let's move right along here. We have Paul Novak at 6 16th Street, DEP number 050-1333. A continued NOI to construct the parking area for 2 vehicles. All right, hello, Mr. Novak. What's new?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. We did, and I apologize for the lateness, we did get the revised plan based on our last July meeting. We did file it today in PDF, and we have been in touch with DEP. They did issue a file number on this, and that was referenced in our correspondence file 050-1333. With respect to the plan, the modifications were the 2 additional sections of the split rail fence off the right and left side of the plan towards the front of the driveway to define the area, and also the revisions with respect to replication, showing that where the board had suggested on the center of the lot, and also providing that the small area on the right-hand side that's presently gravel is basically being an area of replication where we are going to excavate a small portion of the gravel, and that gravel will be used on the 18 by 18 foot area. It was brought to our attention today by Bill that we did have in the last couple of weeks a major rainstorm down there, and we had all through the island, there were massive, puddles. And it was brought to our attention today that we had put, because there was some unauthorized parking presently on that front section, that front right corner, over there where the gravel area is, that we put a few concrete blocks as an emergency basis for temporary. We will remove those. One of the concerns was that they were blocking some of the drain, the water runoff from the street, from 16th Street. And I have 5 or 6 photos that some of the water was really coming from the parking lot. It washed all the gravel up above on Northern Boulevard. It was washing down the street just because of the nature of the actual downpour. And it was an isolated downpour, and I have pictures of all along Northern Boulevard. They were the same types of flooding. But in front, it wasn't in front of this lot. It didn't affect the neighbor on that side, but it was just in front of that gravel area, the present gravel area. where there was a little bit of buildup on both sides of the street, but it was natural given the type of rain that we had. But we will remove those. I believe there are 5 or 6 blocks, and we will put in there to prevent unauthorized parking that we observed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Bill, do you have anything new to add?
Yeah, the plan basically addresses some of my concerns that I noted. Oops, hold on a second. Let me share my screen. So it looks like he incorporated all the revisions that we asked him to make into the plan. He did add the post and rail fence on both sides, highlighted the areas of the replication areas, the nourishment areas where new beach grass will be planted, dune grass. I think he's managed to incorporate all the changes we had. I made a comment about the one-to-one vegetation area replacement, which he notes in his note number 7. I think we had mentioned something about the Japanese knotweed that was present on the site, that we were going to ask him to do some eradication of that. I don't know if you want to make that a condition. That's something that you might want to discuss.
That's fine.
And the other thing, should we have him put some call it erosion control, but more construction fence, like limited work around the area of the proposed driveway and the drainage area, and probably follow that area there, so that it's kind of limits the work area, and possibly also on the outside of this application area here, they're going to do some excavation of the gravel and replace it with the sand, the dune sand. The sand should stay on site, so whatever they don't use here, they should probably cast in the area where there's it's sparse vegetation now. They put it in that area, so it won't do too much harm to the existing vegetation. And I think they addressed the transition to the edge of the driveway coming. I wanted to make sure that it was going to be going from the edge of the current pavement and sloping into the property. A minimum 2% is what I was suggesting, but they can, as long as it's sloping into the property, that would be the desired slope. Other than that, I think everything's on the plan. So unless there's other questions from the commission, I'll hand it back over to the chair and commission comments.
All right. Thank you, Bill. I think just my own perspective on this is that you're going through the notes on the plan, and I think it might be appropriate to take the notes off the plan and just sort of rephrase them and make them conditions, to make sure that accidents happen with plans, sometimes. So if they're in the order of conditions, they have a little bit more staying power, so to speak. So, I mean, that'd be my one comment. And, I agree about the knotweed, and that's only going to help Mr. Novak out in the long run, because that stuff, once it gets moving, can get really excessive. But that being said, let's go around the horn. Bill Lord, anything from you?
No, I'm good with the new plan.
Great. Daniel?
So, yeah, I just sort of have a question. I can't remember what the split rail fence, what the purpose of that was, to kind of contain everything. I don't know why it's shown like it's just on the back half of this parking area, why it doesn't come all the way.
I think the reason we asked that is so we can open the doors. The parking spots are 9 by 18, so when he parks the cars, he has to be able to open the door and get out of the car. So if you put it all the way to the front, he may not be able to open 2 cars parked there. He may not be able to open the doors in order to get out of the car. So kind of give him a little room. So by cutting it short, it still delineates the end, the head of the parking area, but yet allows him to be able to access it and open his doors to get out of the cars. that was the main reason. And I think, Doug had asked for that before, and when they put it all the way out, it's too difficult to get in out of the cars, and then they end up knocking the fence down anyway, and it's lost anyway. So this way, hopefully, it will stay and maintain the shape of the two parking areas.
Yeah, I mean, I can just kind of see the corners getting chiseled away over time, but if there's a good reason to have it that way, then so be it. And I can't remember, Bill, did you, in your email, you talked about describing the grade of this proposed parking area. Is that not plan, or is that something we have to condition?
I had said that it should stay at the same elevation at the pavement, so that the water will flow off the pavement the way it does now, and it should be slightly sloped back into the property, which he has a note, number 10, that the driveway will begin at the edge of the pavement, and it will consist of gravel depth no less than, and maintain a finished grade that so as not to permit water to drain into the lot from the Red Hay Street. That's the other way around. I would think we'd want it to go off the pavement into the property. It's actually what it does now. It does go off into the pavement. I don't know if we want to stop that. Otherwise, we'll have the flooding in the street like it occurred when he put the blocks up here. So I think it should be the opposite of what they're saying.
I would agree with that, and if that's not shown correctly in the notes, we should just condition that the grading of this parking area should allow water to come off the street, and then there is some slope down towards its infiltration area. And
that's the way it should be, because right now the elevation up front is 10, and the next elevation back at the back of the driveway is 9. And he can raise it a little bit so it's a little bit flatter, but it should stay at least 2%. So in 20 feet, it should drop about 4/10 to get.
All right, just thinking, that would something I'd like to have that as a condition in there.
With respect to the front grade right now, so the commission knows, we didn't want to empty one of the neighbors' concerns. That note was put in based on the neighbors' concern that they do not want any more additional water draining in. And as of right now, when we did our site visit, we did notice, I pointed it out, that of the berm along that existing area, that 20-foot, the 18-foot strip directly in front of the driveway, there's no water whatsoever draining from 16th Street onto that area now. If we lower that grade, we're going to have the water potentially run off when you have massive storms drain on. The water issue we had present in photograph is back further. It's between this boundary line between the other building closer to the Northern Boulevard side. That's where the water was puddling, right in front of that area. It never got down here. And if we open this up now, it's going to add additional drainage against the wishes of the neighbor that's on the westerly side. And we're trying to minimize. We don't want to change existing conditions. We're changing existing conditions because as of right now, the grade goes up about 1.5 inches off the street level. And it's it's not just sand, it's silt that was built up over the years. So it's almost like a drivable surface right now in front of that driveway. So the plan here was with our engineer was to keep it about the same and not to change that grade whatsoever, just to raise the other portion. So you're going to have light runoff already with the natural grade of the soil, and it's so small here you don't even notice it. It's less than about a foot. So you're not even going to notice that change. But we didn't want to introduce new water to this site that's not presently there. And by lowering it to the street, if you do have massive rainfall, there is absolutely no drainage on the street, the 16th Street. The town paved it some years ago when they put the water and sewer in. There is absolutely no drainage there, just like Northern Boulevard. So typically when you get a storm, after the buffer, the water just evaporates and it goes into the ground. If we open this up and lower that, so the water will pour in, because it's not pouring in along the lot. That whole, from that point all the way to the westerly neighbor, it's just about 1.5 inches above grade now. It's a gradual. It starts at the street and it goes up about 1.5 inches. And that's why we put that note in on number 10 at the request of the neighbor to the westerly side to make sure that we weren't going to introduce any additional water into the site. I can see the board's point of having a natural runoff, so the water's not going to puddle in the driveway by an inch or so, but not to the extent of introducing new water onto the area. That no water is coming in through this area right now. The only water is coming in is near this gravel portion, right at the junction of the lot with the other neighboring property on the easterly side. That's the only way where the water's coming in on that existing gravel area up to the right side. And this driveway construction that's proposed is not going to modify that at all. It won't change that grade.
So you're saying right now, this water flows past this proposed parking spot to what was the existing gravel area that is in this area here, to the easterly side of the corner of the lot, and then it goes down to the lot. So it's going to get down to the lot, regardless how it goes there. It's going to get there. So I guess if that is the case, then I would say we want you to do a berm, a slight berm, like say an inch or so, 2 or 3 inches on the beginning of this at the entrance, and then slope it back down. So it's still.
That's exactly what we were proposing.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So I see that.
And the water's
so it's going to come down here and then go down through.
Right.
So it's going to take the same route it's doing now.
Right. The water's not coming from the westerly side. It's coming down basically from the easterly side off of Northern Boulevard from the gravel area up above on the commercial lot and the street.
That was all the comments and questions I had.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, let's move on then. Kevin.
I have no further comments. I thought that was a good discussion.
All right. Thank you. And Peter. Nothing to add. Okay. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I think for myself, I'm just going to sort of stick with that same comment about, Bill Holt. I think there's a good value in writing all this stuff down, just because, if nothing else, to confirm that the commission agrees with some of the things, the way they're written on the plan, and to make sure that, we don't, in a manner of speaking, that discussion doesn't come up again. Other than that, I suppose, are there any, anybody with their hand up, Gretchen? Any abutters?
Looks like Hubert.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mulligan, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go. All right, the floor is yours, Mr. Mulligan.
I agree with Mr. Novak on the 1.5 inches there, because no water did go down there. The water actually that came down went in where the cement blocks are at the moment. And because in back of that area, there's a natural catchment basin. And that's where the water ended up. And I totally agree with Mr. Novak that no water should be actually going down the driveway. If anything, it should go back down where it normally went on the eastern end of his lot. And other than that, I don't see too much any concerns with the plan as written. The only thing I would like to see is on the plan right now, there's vegetation and bushes that are not shown on the plan on the westerly end. I don't know if that's of any importance or not, but for later date, I would like to see that that shown on the print. And that's all I got to say.
Actually, Mr. Mulligan, do you mind if I ask you just to do your full name and address for the record?
Yeah, Hubert Mulligan, 8 16th Street.
All right, excellent. Thank you. One actual thought that I just had, and Mr. Mulligan and Mr. Novak and Bill Holt, I'm sure you guys can answer this. The area that had previously been parked on, is there a reason perhaps to put up any protective posts to keep people from parking there in the future? If we're going to put all this effort into planting it, if it was accessible before, it will remain so. Does anybody want to speak to that particular issue?
Sure. There is a fence up there now on the right-hand side. With respect to the area, the bushes are coming out right now, as you can see, into that area, and it's growing up. We could have basically either a sawhorse or whatever. We're going to need to get access to that area for replication purposes, and the bushes are filling it in naturally. So if the actual gravel is excavated from that site, then they're not going to be going in anymore. And that was the purpose of having those blocks on an emergency basis. But we will get some other type of a barrier up there so that, either a rope or whatever, so that they can't get in the interim.
Okay. I think in terms of the interim barriers or a barrier that goes in at the end, I think perhaps it might be worth talking to Bill Holt about that and just putting that into the order of conditions and just sort of settling that up ahead of time. Rather than, I don't know that personally, I feel like you've addressed our concerns, and there's maybe one or two, I's to dot or T's to cross, but it appears to me as if, we have been satisfied, at least I have, with the way this has been put together. And so some of those smaller details, I'd be okay with you working that out through Bill Holt. I know being on the once a month schedule, it's kind of a bit to come back and wait on something like that. But yeah, like I said, Bill Holt, if you just want to write up the conditions off this plan, that's about all I have. So what would the board like to do? Would anybody like to see Mr. Novak again, or would the board like to put down a motion to sort of have Bill Holt write in the conditions that we have spoken of and put together the order of conditions?
I make a motion that we approve this with conditions that Bill Holt will be writing.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Let's go around the horn. Bill Lord.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
I saw your mouth move.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Kevin.
Yes.
And Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote in the affirmative. All right, so Bill Holt, it's, put those conditions together, right? And, I presume a pre-construction meeting will be in there. You seem fond of those. So, and Mr. Novak, if it works for you, those conditions will just sort of be above and beyond sort of the usual boilerplate. And then Bill Holt, do you want to sort of run him through his timeline?
Yep. Okay, once the hearing is completed and closed, the commission must issue its decision known as the order of conditions within 21 days. As the applicant, you may appeal an order of conditions issued under the act within 10 days. Abutters, 10 residents of the community, and Mass DEP can also appeal within the 10-day period. You must wait until the 10-day period is over before you can commence any work.
Thank you.
All right, you're all set then. Let's see. So thank you for coming back as many times as you did. Let's see who we have coming up next. We have Fred Jackman at 68 Green Street, DEP number 0501327, which is a continued NOI to raise an outbuilding, construct a gravel roadway, drainage, grading, and associated utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone for a 3-lot residential subdivision. So, we have anybody for this one?
Yes, good evening. My name's Maureen Harold. I'm from Norse Environmental Services. Also here with me tonight is Chris York from Millennium Engineering.
All right, excellent. All right, so yeah, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So we were in front of the commission about a month ago, and we performed a site walk. And if the commission recalls, the original design showed the drainage basin outletting a swale behind lot 1. And it was kind of a different feature. And Fred Jackman had asked us to take a look at that wetland area. So we took another look at that wetland area. That would have been the wetland area in front of the stone wall. And we found upland soils there. So we were able to adjust the wetland boundary. As a result of that, we met Bill Holt out on the site to just get his opinion on the wetland area as well. And he agreed with that adjustment. In addition, there was an isolated wetland that was flagged along the southerly property line. So essentially, the plans have changed to reflect the new wetland boundary. The house on lot 1 is exactly in the same place as it was originally proposed to the commission. And as a result of changing the boundary, we were able to shift the drainage basin to the west or closer to the stone wall. And essentially eliminating that swale that went behind the house on lot 1. So overall, I think it's a better design where the basin is right now. And I can open it up to the commission. We submitted the revised plans. I believe at the site walk, one of the commissioners requested the deep hole test. So that was in your package as well for the septic systems. And as far as I know, this is still in front of planning board, but if you have any questions about planning board, I refer that to Chris.
All right, thank you. Chris, unless you have something to contribute to the introduction, I'm going to turn it back to Bill Holt and let him do some things. You know, let him have the floor.
No, nothing much to add. Just a quick correction. The house lot 1 did move just a little bit further to the north. You know, as part of the planning process, we moved it away from that existing house, the abutters to the south. So we wanted to give them a little bit more of a yard and a little bit more of a buffer to that existing house. So that's the only correction I had. What Maureen had said, just a minor correction.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well then, with that being said, Bill Holt, what do you have to say about this?
Okay. Yeah, we did actually. I took a walk out at the site with Norse Environmental and reviewed the flags, the revised flags they installed, which is on the other side of that wall she's speaking of is just right in here. It's an intermittent wall. It's an interior wall. It goes from this area down here. You can see my screen, right? I'm not just pointing to my own screen. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the wall she was speaking of is right through here. It's an interior wall that sort of separates the back of the property from the rear of the property. And originally this wetland came up over into this side of the wall, to the southerly side of the wall, and went easterly side of the wall, and went down through here and kind of connected with that and came back out. But there's actually a ridge that goes, there's a ridge that comes in right through here. You can see the contours, 18, 17, 16. There's a ridge that's right through here it's really an upland area, and it connects through the elevations out towards the pond and to the north. The soils up there was not hydric soils. It had crumb was above 2, above 3. The classification of the wetland soils is Maybid and Rainham, which is pretty typical of wetland support wetland communities. The existing topography indicated that this was more of an upland area than a wetland area. there is some vegetation out there, probably as a result of the farming operations that occurred throughout time. Again, the soil morphology indicated that there was no soil modeling within 18 inches, and that the color of the soil was upland soil, was not hydric. So again, the overall changes, as they noted, were somewhat minimal. The buffer zone is almost the same. It's a little bit comes in right here where before it went across here. So there's about the same amount of buffer work for these proposed houses. They're still in about the same area. This one slid to the north about 20 feet. It was originally right in this area here, and it moved northwest a little bit. The pond moved about 10, 15 feet westerly, and just kind of now goes up to the wall, and the discharge location can go into the wetlands instead of having to traverse down through here behind the house. The pond's about the same size. I looked at that calculations, and for that, it's really the same pond. The road's the same. The number of lots are the same. There's no increase in development number of lots or road length. Septics are in the same location. This change does also help this house access its leach area, which is on the northerly side of the property. Up in this area is where the leach area is going to be for this house here. And before, where this pond was back, they had to cross under the pond. There was no way to stay on their lot. They had to reconfigure the lot slightly when they moved the pond down a little bit, and that allowed them to. They'll be able to now put the septic pipe along this property line to get to the leach area without crossing the pond itself. They'll have to go under the drain line, but they can do that and protect the pipes when they do that. So in the end, it's a little better layout for the roadway, and I mean for the house lots themselves. A little better layout for the drainage. Don't really see it as a big change in terms of buffer work or work in the area of the wetlands areas. So that's why I think it's a pretty good plan that they're showing now. It's a little better design. I gotta finalize my review on the drainage, but I did take a look at it, and it seems to be fairly similar to the original design. I think they had a swale that was coming down through here now. They're just piping it. So again, that makes it a little easier to cross with the sewer line. So I think that's my review of it. I'll open it up back to the commission now for any comments they might have.
All right, thanks, Bill. I've got a few questions, but I will wait to the end. Bill Lord, anything from yourself?
No, nothing.
Okay. Daniel?
The only thing I can think of is the existing farm road may need some restoration, and some of that may be within the buffer zone. I mean, I think we should encourage that. So that's about all I got. I mean, I think, everything seems to be where it's supposed to be.
Okay. Kevin?
I wasn't on the site walk, so I'm trying to play a little bit of catch up, but as of now, I don't have any comments.
Okay. And Peter?
I'm fine.
Okay. I also missed the site walk just through a mental fluke. But I did do a little bit of a drive-by, and I did notice our lovely friend, or my favorite friend, Japanese knotweed, is a big part of the beginning area. And so that would be a construction issue for me to make sure that the knotweed is dealt with prior to any real work going on in there. But in terms of the layout of the plan, I'm a little curious about lot 2 and 1. The way the houses are laid out, they're in the buffer zone, and there's nothing in what I've seen that sort of, they have to be there. just pulling, like if the driveway on lot 2, didn't corner, and the driveway ran straight into the house wouldn't have to be inside the buffer zone. And, if the cul-de-sac was a little shorter, you could arguably not change anything on the footprint of lot 1 and just move the house a couple of feet out of the buffer zone. And so, that has caught my attention. So if you guys want to speak to that detail or those details, whichever is more grammatically correct.
Sure. So for this notice of intent filing, we did it separately. So we filed for just the roadway and the drainage. And then we were going to come back to the commission with the individual house lots. The reason why we did it that way is that it's a little bit cleaner in terms of filing the paperwork and issuing the order of conditions. But we'll certainly take note of the concerns about maybe relocating the houses outside the buffer zone when we do come back to the commission. I think, we can certainly take a look at that. And another commissioner had mentioned the driveway coming in. Again, a lot of that will be restored or removed or incorporated into a new driveway for one of the house lots, and the remaining area will be lawn area. In terms of the Japanese knotweed, that is tricky. That plant is evil.
Yeah. Yes.
We can certainly come up with some sort of management methods. Gosh, I think the roots of the Japanese knotweed can go down to 15 feet in the ground. It's almost easier to create lawn area, I think, and maintain it as lawn. I don't know if the commission is open to that idea or that type of management method. But I'm certainly all ears to what it is you usually like to see.
Well, the concern more than what I like to see, the concern would be, if you got construction in there right away, and you start spreading the knotweed across the site and then taking it off site, I don't know if there'd be soil coming and going in the road build or not, if there'd be fill coming and going, and so I'd be just concerned about making it worse above and beyond the problem on site. I don't think grass would work, as you mentioned, the 15-foot thing. I do personally feel like the nuclear option is safe when it comes to knotweed. Like, it's not going to make anything worse if you salt the earth where the knotweed used to be, which is a bit extreme. But my comments about the houses, though, had to do with, if the approval for the road puts the road in, locked into place. I've forgotten if this is for the cul-de-sac or if, this is also for sort of the driveways. And if it's for just the cul-de-sac, if we need to shorten it now to talk about the houses later, that's sort of roundabout, logistically, regulatorily, which comes first.
Right, so I'm going to direct that to Chris York because he will know more about the cul-de-sacs and the length and what's appropriate for the planning board.
Yeah, I'll just add that these houses that we show are just footprints. These are 3,000 square foot footprints. These are humongous footprints we show. I can't imagine the houses are going to be that big. They'll probably be a little differently shaped. Like the house on lot 1 actually can, it can go up a little bit. There's room to get to the back on the northerly side, move up closer to the cul-de-sac to get out of the 100-foot buffer. Again, I think if the house is 2,000 square feet, but that's still pretty darn big. You'll be able to get out of the buffer zone. And it'd be the same thing on lot 2. We had moved that on lot 2 just recently, the neighbor Noise Lane had issues with the, buffer to her house. I mean, she's got a pretty good line there now, so I moved the house probably 20 or 30 feet from her property line to the buffer zone, but there's enough room to move it back out of there. And again, it's a 3,000 square foot footprint, so it's much larger than it's going to be, I would imagine, when it does get built. I think I don't think there's any need to move any cul-de-sac or any of these houses will be able to on these lots and get outside the buffer zones, I think, easily.
Okay.
Once they,
I think,
once they get into individual septic designs, they'll have a better idea of what the print will be, and they can.
Okay.
I think they can go from there.
Okay. So may I presume then that, we're not counting the driveway as part of the road approval, right? We're just doing the cul-de-sac is what you're, right? Okay. Yep. So then the knotweed would be an issue for the cul-de-sac because, depending on how the construction goes, I think that's got to be sort of at least shown not to be in your way or in the line of sight of all the dirt moving prior to anything happening, and above and beyond the knotweed, the rhizomes going how far down they go, they do have a pretty big lateral spread, going out 10, 15, 20 feet potentially. And so even if the actual construction would miss the stand where it is, the fill concerns would still be there. And I don't know whether the fill would go somewhere else on site or off site, but yeah. So I'd like to see some thoughts on paper for that, personally.
So just so that I understand it, so in terms of the construction sequence and trying to manage the Japanese knotweed, or like a management plan as a whole for the subdivision?
I think those two things are going to be hand in glove. I think the construction sequence and the management plan are going to inform each other so closely that, they're going to be one and the same.
Okay, that's not a problem. I can come up with something for the commission.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't anticipate any fill leaving this site. There's a pretty big cut at the beginning of the road. I think that fill that we take out will probably just be put back on other parts of the site, I would imagine, kind of even out the cut fill numbers.
Yeah. So that would sort of be important, because if you guys do that, you'd end up spreading the knotweed all over the place, and that'd be bad. So yeah, it'd be good to address this up front for sure. All right. Well then, in a manner of speaking, if you guys need any help with the knotweed stuff, call Bill, and Bill will tell me to take care of it. But I think it's the next meeting is about the 25th of September, or the 15th, something with a 5.
15th. Yes.
15th. And then you guys, I presume, have your planning board stuff still kicking.
Yeah, we got the planning board meeting on the 2nd of September. It was supposed to be our night, but it's been continued. Just waiting for some condo or homeowners docs to be put together.
All right, so we'll see you guys again regardless. All right, so then anybody, Gretchen, on the side with their hands in the air?
Are there any butters? Nope. Don't see anything. You're good,
Okay.
Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, well then, if there's nothing else, I think Chris and Maureen, you guys, have a little bit to do, but not too much. And then we'll see what you come back after your planning conversations.
Sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. All right, let's see. Do we need to vote to continue to the 15th? I forget.
Yes.
Getting fuzzy.
Move to continue.
Oh, Bill wanted to vote.
Second.
Anybody want to vote with Bill?
Yes.
All right. Well, so we'll roll call this to move it, to continue it to the 15th. Bill Lord,
Aye.
Daniel,
Yes.
Kevin,
Aye.
Peter,
Yes.
and I also will agree to do that on the 15th. All right, great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys. And let's see who we have next. Where's my agenda? Eric Sorensen, Newberry Golf Center, LLC, 131, 131 and 151 Scotland Road, DEP 0501243. The applicant seeks a modification of an existing order of conditions to construct a golf center with driving range, pro shop, ice cream stand, parking, and stormwater management facilities. All right, so who do we have here? I see Eric, and I see you look unmuted, Eric. That's great. And Mike, I saw a hand go up from, all right, there we go. All right, so you guys want to introduce yourselves and what's going on and, you know, let us know what's new.
Great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mike Laham, civil engineer with the Moore and Cameron Group. This project's been going on for a while, as I think probably everyone's aware. The original order of conditions was issued about 3 years ago, 2017. We've been proceeding with construction under that. Of course, there was the unfortunate situation out there with tree removal. Most people, if everyone's on the commission, obviously you remember that, kind of a logger taking advantage of an opportunity when no one was looking and cut a lot more trees than was supposed to. So, and I apologize. I'm looking at my screen right now, and I haven't asked to share my screen yet, but I will get to that. But if someone wants to grant me permission, if you haven't already,
Yep, I can do that for you, Mike. Hold on one second.
But yeah, so essentially this has been, it's been ongoing, the construction process. We're really reaching the finish line right now, which is kind of why we're here. And I can give a little bit of background of where we've been and what we've been up to lately. And a lot of that has actually been dealing with the Newberry Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen. We also have a open hearing with them, and Mr. Pecos is here. He's well aware of that, so he might be able to provide some input. So that's essentially that's the site plan review with the Planning Board, and then a special permit with Board of Selectmen. So we have kind of kept it open, and there's some reasons for that I'll get into. And then what the goal is tonight is we're seeking a modification. We feel it's minor in nature, and essentially the way I would present it from a conservation perspective is that it would be kind of updating the plan of record and updating the stormwater calcs, basically. I mean, not much has changed, I wouldn't say, of substance in regards to conservation. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen here. Just so that folks can look at a plan while I'm talking. Can everyone see it's got like green color?
Yep, it's coming through.
Coming through, perfect. So I'll just kind of leave this here as a placeholder. But so essentially, what we're coming to do is we're reaching the end of construction. You know, it's been a long road. Obviously, Mr. Eric Sorensen, he's on the call. He you know, it's been tough, but we're finally there, and it's looking great. And I have some photographs, and I'd like to share. I'll do that shortly, just to give everyone a sense of how it's looking out there right now. So what the modification primarily involves. So this here is the modified site plan. So I'll zoom out a little bit. This is prepared by Moore and Cameron Group. I've been working on the plan, preparing the plan. As some of you may recall, the original engineer on the project was Meridian, and their plan, let me grab it here. So this is just an example of their grading plan, which is kind of similar to the plan that I was just looking at, the modified plan, but essentially this was the approved plan. So Meridian did the design. There were some issues in various aspects of the design. I won't get into great detail, although I'll talk a little bit about it, but there was some topography issues out there where there was a so-called, you might say, a bust in the topography by 4 feet up in this high area. So this is the high area of the property, and so that's one example. And then there was a few issues that we encountered, and that Eric encountered, and so he's been working with us. I've been involved since September of 2018. Scott Cameron, one of the principals of Moore and Cameron, has been involved since then also. I've kind of been the point person though, so I've been really working through the details of it and keeping it moving forward. So we kind of took over as the engineer and responsible charge of the inspections, following obviously the unfortunate incident of the logging, and the clearing of the site. It was getting it stabilized. It was a lot of work. Eric was out there every day, installing erosion controls with his crews, and so it's been a lot of work, and I've been working with him since September of 2018. The one thing I wanted to point out too, so here's the original site plan, right? So the buildings haven't changed. Let's see if so the buildings really haven't changed, and all of the stormwater in the front of the site, also like kind of between Scotland Road and the buildings, all of the stormwater features there, the parking lots, none of that has changed. But the areas that we've been focusing on is what we call the landing area, which is where you'd be driving the golf balls. So you've got these three, well, you got one building right here, and then you have 2 tee pads, and this is where you'd be driving the golf balls, and we've been calling that the landing area. So essentially that's where a lot of these changes, and that's kind of why we're here tonight, in addition to the fact that stormwater management, even though some areas might be outside of the buffer zone, of course, stormwater management features would be draining toward wetland areas, so we kind of submitted new stormwater calculations as well. Let me just flip. So as you can see, this is how the grading was presented, right? These are the approved plans. And essentially what we're here tonight to focus on is really this landing area and what was built. Now, throughout this process, we realized a couple things also, that the soils were not nearly as good as were anticipated based on the soil maps. So that's one of the things that is a big player in drainage calculations. So the soils just were not as good. They were, the original modeled them as the best soils you can have, which is a soil group A, which is the most well-drained soils. It's just not what's out there, and there's quite a bit of ledge, and just not as well-drained soils. So in consideration of the ledge and the soils and all of the issues with the elevation change that I had discussed, we were given permission under our applications before the planning board and the selectmen to kind of work this area as we saw fit, in as we encountered soil conditions, as we encountered various constraints out there, let's say, that we could construct it in a manner that seemed to fit the situation, but still keeping the intent the same. So that's kind of why we're here, is to focus on this area here. And of course, you've got, this is the wetland in the rear of the site, is in this portion of it here. Then there's what we've been calling the non-jurisdictional wetland. So that runs down right through here. So these are the two that are nearest that, and then there's actually one back in here as well, a small wetland back in this area. So you can kind of see much of it is outside of the buffer zone, but like I said, you've got the stormwater management features, draining down toward there. Then there's a wetland, of course, through the center of the site here, down along Scotland Road, and this area really hasn't changed. So the modification we're here for isn't relating to anything up here. This was built per plan. There weren't really issues building this per plan. There were various things that we did have to revise that needed to be adjusted just for constructability. There was just some issues with the plan, so some little, really minor changes. Some of the piping, the way the piping was routed, but by and large, this whole area just hasn't changed as far as what was on the approved plan. So basically, the whole design for the stormwater is that you have grass depressions out here. We're calling them grass depressions. You can see one right in here, a small one back in here, back in here, back in this area. And those are just essentially infiltration areas, just grass depressions, like you would say. Now, we did add a low flow outlet into these because of the soil conditions. They are draining now a bit better than they were, but they're still not very well drained. So we added a low flow outlet. Doesn't take much water, kind of just like a slow drain to make sure that they'll drain between storms and still be able to function and grow vegetation and everything like that in here. So that's kind of the intent of the stormwater design. It was the same as the original. We actually added, and this was a really big improvement, and been working closely with Bill Holt, so he's really familiar with he's familiar with all of this, probably more familiar than he even wants to be. But so this area here, there was never anything planned here originally. If I flip back to this plan really briefly, you'll notice there's a swale there's a 74 contour here, but that's it. So this whole area, which is the roof, the roofs, these concrete pads, all of this was just running off unmitigated through here. So in this new design, it just really made sense to locate this here for a lot of reasons. It's just it was a location where water was going anyway, but it's really worked in nicely to the landscape now, and it was a really great feature. So this is just a large grass depression, and we installed an outlet structure right here, and then just a pipe out to the riprap, and there's already riprap there, because this is again where the water was going previously. So this was a feature that we added, and it really made a difference in the calculations, and it kind of nestled in nicely there with the topography and what Eric was looking to do with that part of the site. So real briefly, I'm just going to walk you through. So I think I was actually out there today. I took some pictures. These are actually from today to give you guys a sense, because I understand that if you haven't been there, well, I assume that most of you haven't been there in quite a while, in which case you would have no idea what it looks like, right? And we're asking you to approve a modification. Kind of we're moving quickly toward final approvals with planning and with the selectmen, and then shortly thereafter we'd be seeking a certificate of occupancy. So we're trying to close the loop here with you guys, of course, right now, and then we'll be following up with the remaining boards. So the modification, I think, is the key thing we're looking for, and understandably, if you haven't seen it, you might be curious how it's looking right now and where we're at. So we're looking for, of course, a modification now, but then in relatively short order, we'd be looking for a certificate of compliance. There's some work that we still need to do, and we'll be working closely with Bill Holt. I've been working with him quite closely since he's been involved, and that's actually been very helpful. So we'll be working with Bill on the actual compliance aspect of it, but really here we're just asking to modify the site plan and the stormwater calculations, which I won't get into those. Bill can you know, brief you on those, or kind of Bill and I have worked together on those or discussed them, and he's comfortable with where they are now. But then there's a whole compliance piece that will also follow, just to ensure that everything's built per plan and working properly. So I'm going to start. I'm going to flip through some pictures. I'm trying not to take too much more time here, but I'm going to kind of start. I'll be standing, I think I'm standing like right here to start, just so you guys know. And I'll be looking in this direction toward kind of the rear of the site. Let's see, this will come up on that screen. So of course, kind of in a drought here. The grass was looking great, slowing down a bit, but hopefully we get a little bit of cooler weather and some moisture, and that'll kind of green right up. And certain areas are doing better than others, and there is some irrigation as well in certain portions, which is primarily near the buildings, near the tees. So again, we're looking toward what we call the grass tees, is up in the rear of the property.
Mike, we're not seeing your picture.
Oh, it says please. Wait, what did it say? Please move this window away from the shared application. Oh, wait, why is it saying that? But I want to share that. All right, let me try to share it again. I've just put it on the same screen, so it should have, I thought I was just sharing that whole screen, so let me just do that. How about now?
There you go.
All right, so the grass tees are up on the left here. This is the very top rear corner, and this is the grass tees. So then I'll just flip through these photos. So I just turned to the left, and you can start to see that's a storage shed there, and septic system is actually up in this corner. Hold on, here we go. So T building. This is the pro shop, kind of in the center there. This will be where the ball machine is, and then the ice cream will be on the other side of this, the pro shop here. So still turning towards Scotland Road would be in the background of this picture, way down the hill. You can see it's a real gentle stormwater feature in here. You can hardly tell, but it really is, you know, it's functional, and it works well for what the range is seeking to do. The outlet of that basin is right in the center of this picture. You can see this black pipe. That's the outlet structure, and then there'll be an overflow spillway that I'm going to be working with Eric on, and then we'll be speaking with Bill also about that. It's something that we've been discussing, is putting an overflow structure here. But essentially that's that grass depression that we added. And in here is actually, it's called the Wedge Range, and that's where you'll be, if you want to practice your wedges, you can use that. There's these targets actually, and you can even see they're inside the basin. So it's kind of a grass depression, and it'll be the multi-purpose thing, let's say. So and so keep in mind as you look. So I'm gonna kind of keep turning toward the range. So this area was, you know, it was quite a bit of work to get this graded, stabilized, and in the condition that it is now. You know, Eric is pleased with it, and we're really getting there. So you know, so here's just looking way out in the distance. So I'll just point out on the right side of this picture would be that non-jurisdictional wetland. That's just what we've been calling it for, you know, for the past couple of years. So that's here, and then back here you can see this big bowl shape, and that's the one that slopes down to this other wetland system in the rear. So that's just kind of the lay of the land. So you can see it's really good stabilization here. Obviously, we could use some rain. This was bright green, you know, a month and a half ago or so, or keep turning. So here we're back toward the grass tees, and then this again, I wanted to point out. This is actually in the rear toward the wetland, the larger wetland system in the rear here. So that's down to the right of this picture, and that's it there. So this is where a lot of the mitigation happened. There's a lot of plantings that happened down in here, and so as a result of the clearing, there was as folks probably recall, an enforcement order. 135 trees were planted. We had a whole mitigation plan. You can see some of these trees in here. You kind of see the pines in here, and then there was actually a lot of kind of more shrubby plants down in this area as well. And so it's all doing well. We actually have a letter. We had the horticulturist who did this work. He's been visiting the site, and he's certifying that everything's in good health, and that it appears that over time this area will kind of recolonize with the native plants that were planted and or that are growing back in this area. So now I'm just kind of turning again. Now I'm turning back toward the buildings. You can see them from there. So this overlooks these. You can see the stone in this basin in here, and there's some stone back in here. So they're kind of connected, but these couple stormwater grassed depressions, and then these are just meant for these low flow drains. And it's actually a 3-inch pipe with holes drilled in it, so it's really a low flow, something just to let that water bleed out of those during events that may fill them. Most events I think will just infiltrate, but this low flow drain was added just to make sure that they do function well and do what we need them to do. And yeah, you can see off in the distance these wedge range markers, so that would be where the other grass depression is, right in front of the keys. There's more of a close-up view. I can even zoom in a little. You can see this vertical pipe. So it's not a big pipe, and then we have some holes drilled in it, and we've got a lower hole here too, but small holes drilled in, 3-inch pipe. This 12-inch is just kind of to keep the pipe accessible. That's not the actual drain itself. That's just a little stick of pipe. So I'll work my way back toward the front. There's one of these stone bunkers that are just kind of like a target area. And here's a view of that outlet structure and the basin. And Eric's been irrigating this just to really get it to pop. You can see it's coming in. So any areas that are recently seeded are being irrigated when possible to really get that establishment. So this is just the front of the site. This would be looking down towards Scotland Road. That would be right in the background of this, 60 feet vertical down the hill. Yeah, you can see Scotland Road in the background. This is a large infiltration basin. Eric has re-scarified this and is irrigating when he can get irrigation out there. But this has just kind of been re-scarified. All the sediment was removed, but this is the main basin area. Trying to get that to regrow after removing the sediment. In the rear of that is called the short game area, which is putting and chipping. That's growing in now. You can see being irrigated as well. So we're getting there. You can see the kind of peach fuzz growing everywhere. That's kind of the last of it that we need. And then this is a good view looking. This would be like from the parking lot area, looking down toward the new entrance. So you can see on each side of the new entrance. Again, seed is germinating, is growing, and that's kind of where we're really hoping to that's the last of what needs to be stabilized. The rest of it's in good shape. So that's one of the stormwater basins that was built per plan. Again, this is that one as well. 7-4 bay. And then let's see. So this here is a drainage culvert. So if you were to drive up the driveway on your right, driving up, this is where a new culvert was installed. And we have a little more work to do in this area. I'll be working with the contractor just to kind of clean up and correct something that he had done. So this area isn't totally finished, but I'll be working with him on that. And that drains then, I think I do have a good picture of where that drains to, which is right. So here's that wetland that I said kind of in front of the site, kind of bifurcated the property. It's this larger area in here, and then it gets narrow right through and drains out this way, and then it goes down toward Scotland Road. So that's that central wetland. You can see how the basin is kind of built. There's a berm, a little tough to tell with all the vegetation, but there's a quite a substantial berm right here, dividing the two. So that's right. Now back to the beginning. So in the interest of hoping to, move things forward, I wanted to walk you guys through the site and give you a sense of what it looks like. Again, in the interest of time, I know it's about 9:30. I don't suppose that I need to go into the stormwater piece in great detail, although I will if anyone wants me to kind of cover that, or if you guys are going to lean on Bill for that, then I can answer any questions. But why don't I just kind of leave it at that? I showed you the original site plan here that was approved. This is the modified site plan that we're looking to get approved, and then, like I said, moving forward, I'll be in close contact with Bill, and we'll continue to see that this gets built per plan, and that we get to the finish line here. And Eric is, he's chomping at the bit to get open. Of course, it's been a long road, so we're excited to be almost there. But I'll leave it at that unless any of the commission members want a stormwater update.
No, sounds great, Mike. Thanks for the photo tour. I'm sure plenty of people looked at that and wondered if it was still the same site they walked, however long ago.
Right.
For now, let's turn it over to Bill Holt. And Bill, if you want to just sort of address some of the changes from your perspective and call out anything you think that maybe any of us might be a little extra interested in hearing about.
Okay. Yeah, if I could share my screen, I can be able to move around a little easier than on the same plan. Let me grab it. All right. So I agree with most of everything that Mike has basically described. I came in to this reviewing this project in June. A lot of these decisions to modify the drainage were done before I got here. It's sort of been doing it. It's a build design check basically. They're building it based on the conditions they're finding, and they're designing it as they go and checking it to make sure it's working. And right now what we have is this plan, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but this plan is a partial as-built specifically for the rear portion of the property, which is the driving range landing area, which is, as you described, is this area right in the back here. This is what's changed, modified from the original design. A couple of these areas were proposed, the one here, the depressions here and the depression there were proposed by a former engineer. They were built, but they weren't built to the same exact design as was proposed, mostly because of the changing conditions. So they were able to design features that, based on their calculations, appear to work to do the job that they were supposed to do. Again, these areas are largely outside the buffer zone. This one actually is in that buffer zone, so that, I guess it's a BBW, most of it, because it has buffer zone. But that was proposed originally in that location, so it's supposed to be there, and they're constructing it as required, as necessary. So the calculations that I've reviewed so far indicate this will work. The numbers are a little different because of the change in the character of the soil and the amount of ledge and different requirements, the way they had to design it. So I'm not overly concerned the drainage is going to work. I think it's actually a better design than was proposed. Originally, they were proposing a long 700-foot infiltration trench along the backside of this property, which I just don't see what it would do for the runoff going this way. We had a couple of small ponds. This pond is, I think, a tremendous improvement over the previous design in terms of mitigating runoff coming in the direction of the isolated wetland and going towards Scotland Road. We need to tweak it a little bit, as Mike said. I want to see the final construction of the outlet in this area here. He's got the 2 and 25-year storms designed, and the outlet structure is a vertical riser and has orifices in it that let water go in at the lower storm rates, and then the opening on top will let the larger storms in, then overflow will let the 100-year storm pass, but mitigating it down to below the pre-development construction rates. So drainage-wise, they're on the right track, and they're close to getting it finished. I'd like to see this finished before they get their opening permit. Honestly, I just want that in place to be able to work for the 100-year storm. These seem to be fine. There was a lot of tree plantings. Like I said, they're going to have a certification and an as-built of all the plantings, and so a final as-built of the whole backside and the front side. The front side didn't change, and well, as far as I know, it looks to be what was designed. I haven't seen an as-built yet. This is not, I don't believe, an as-built yet. This is the modified design, or the design that the previous engineer had. It's basically stayed the same. This well, you can see here that it was shown on this plan is sort of been constructed, and it has some check dams in it. It needs to be finalized, fine-tuned a little bit. So all in all, they're on the right track. I don't have really any issues with the work that was done. I mean, it's been a long road for them, I guess. I've only been here for a couple months, but yeah, they're coming close to finishing it. There may be, Doug informed me, there may be, and we're going to check it out next few days, there may be a small patch of phragmites that may have grown in this section here. When it was opened up, sunlight got to it, and it may have started to grow. As Doug said, he reviewed it back, I think it must have been in March or April, that it was a very small stand of newly growing phragmites. There is a lot of phragmites along Scotland Road. It has nothing to do with the site. It's just there. Not particularly right in front of our property, but down both ends. It's just, as it grows, it takes things. So, but the site itself is in decent shape, as you saw the pictures. It hasn't reached its 70% growth rate yet for some of the areas. A lot of the areas that have got there. A lot of the landing area up here is the modification is basically complete. There's a lot of the major construction's done. There's some fine tuning, some fine grading that needs to be done. A little more assessment of the drainage down here, just to show that it does comply with the stormwater management requirements. So I'm not displeased with the modifications. It's a little unique in fact that it was done sort of on the fly, but in my opinion, it's probably overall a better plan than originally designed. So that's my take on it at this point. Still doing the final review. We need some final as-builts, but all in all, I think it's a pretty reasonable plan. Definitely addresses the issues that we need them to address. And again, these basins here are not quite fully online because the final pavement is not in and the curbing's not in. So once that's in, these will be online. I think he's trying to get the grass to grow a little more in the basins, in the bottoms, to once they pull that sediment out, to get the grass to regrow so that they can, when they pave, they'll have it online and it will work without causing much more erosion in the bottom of the basins. So that's what I observed and have reviewed to date, and I'll hand it back to the chairman and any comments or questions from the commission.
All right, thank you, Bill. And thanks again, Mike. I think personally, I would just sum it up. It sounds as if all of the issues that the commission has, that these plan changes don't make anything harder to address. And it sounds from both presentations that makes it easier to address. So that's a 2 thumbs up. I like that. But let's go around the horn. Bill Lord.
I'm good with it if Bill's good with it. He's, got the knowledge.
Okay. All right, Daniel?
I'm just, I think the work up top looks good, and we're just basically accepting this plan as a modification. So that seems good to me. I'm sort of curious about the roadway. I think there were some problems during a rainstorm. Just like those check dams look like that was part of that situation. I'm just hopeful that reaches some stability where it's not a continuing problem.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Kevin?
No, I don't have any further comments.
Okay. And Peter?
So, as was mentioned, this has been a long project. I think the important point for the conversation point tonight is I want the commission to truly appreciate how much work Bill has done since he's come on board. This project has been his full-time job. He's sometimes out to the site meeting Eric and Mike, sometimes two times a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And I just want this commission to know, and the town, the phenomenal job that Bill has done since he's come on board. And with his extreme involvement and intervention and communication between all the different players, it has advanced the process. And I think, Bill, you need to be appreciated and recognized for this. There you go.
All right, Bill. Well, good job, but it doesn't mean you guys just come on golf. It's not allowed.
Just ice cream.
Not a good golfer, so a hack.
Yeah, I mean that's a big project, so I'm not surprised to hear that Bill's been out there a lot. But it is extra nice to hear on a recorded meeting that he's doing a good job. So hopefully, Bill, you get cards in the mail congratulating you and thanking you. And all right, well then, do we have anybody here from the public? Any hands in the air, Gretchen?
No hands in the air. You're good to go.
All right. Well, so the only thing we're doing tonight is accepting the change in plans and moving into that, which sounds good. I think my one concern, Bill Holt, would simply be that in the filing cabinet, in the filing system, the older plans and the newer plans both sort of stay in the package. It'd be a shame to lose some of the older documentation as we replace, the working documentation. That's normal enough. I don't think that's a big deal, but who knows, maybe. So how do we phrase this language? We would be motioning to do what? How are we editing this? Bill Holt, do you have a sense of how we should frame our motions to bring this map into play and discard the older one?
Yeah, I think you would want to reference this plan as an acceptable modification to the original design, and also incorporate the calculations that have been prepared and presented. You might want to make note of the potential species Phragmites in the actual wetland, which is, I don't think I'm sharing my screen anymore, am I? I don't think I am. But in the actual, not the IVW, not the isolated wetland, but the actual BVW, which is the more, I guess, more southerly wetland, southeasterly wetland, And it's a modification of essentially the landing area drainage only, not the front drainage at this point, because that's actually, I think, constructed based on the original design. I think that would be enough.
So, Bill Holt, in the original language, in the original order of conditions and whatnot, is there anything in there that addresses the frag?
I don't believe it did, because my understanding it was, if it was there, it was not noticed. I'd have to double check, but I could let you know via email, but I don't believe it is of invasive species or.
Just because if, in a manner of speaking, if we're cracking open the order of conditions to swap out the plan for the plan, is this also an opportunity to sort of insert some language to that effect?
Yeah, that's what I was recommending. Maybe at least mention it. It should be investigated and a plan devised to address it prior to a final COC.
Yeah. Eric or Mike, is that something that would cause any hassle on your end, or would you be amenable to having the frag called out?
Yeah, that's fine. We talked about it today. No issues. We'll come up with a plan if there's an issue to get it out of there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So yeah, let's put a motion on the table to do those things we just spoke of. What it would be, if somebody wants to put a motion down that say accepts the proposed plan and calculations in substitution of the pre-existing ones, and that a new condition will be added to the order of conditions regarding the removal of the Phragmites from the site as discussed. That sounds like it ought to be appropriate.
I make a motion that we approve the modifications of the existing order of conditions for the upper section with a condition that the Phragmites are removed.
Great. Good job, Bill. Well done.
Seconded.
All right. So let's go around the horn. Bill Lord.
Yes.
Daniel. Daniel, you're muted. Thumbs up. That'll do. Kevin.
Yes.
And Peter. Peter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And then I will also approve that and vote in the affirmative. So it's good. So that keeps you guys get the plans of record. We get those switched up. And then it sounds like, it looks like we'll be seeing you again soonish for, sooner rather than later for tying all this up and being done with the paperwork. The grass may have been brown, but last time I was there, there was it was just rocks. So it's come a long way.
I think they may be looking for a partial COC so that they can get an occupancy permit, but I don't think we can give them a complete final COC until everything is completed and an as-built is prepared and shown. So I think that's something that they may be looking at in the future.
In the near future, not tonight, right? Because tonight there's just a modification of the existing. Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's fine. All right. Well, then we'll see you guys whenever you show up for a partial. And let's discuss it then, just because we got more things to do tonight. So, great, you guys. It sounds like you're good, and you'll be in touch, I guess. So,
Great,
thanks for the longer, walkthrough on the site conditions and the changes and all of the many and various updates. That was helpful.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Moving on, we have David Manti at 0 Pine Island Road, map R30, lot 5, DEP number 0501330. A continued NOI to construct a dock/pier, ramp, and floating dock within Salt Marsh Resource Area and ACEC. All right, Bill, I believe this is you got the.
I'm going to speak on this because Mr. Manti contacted me earlier today, and he's asked for a continuance until September 15th. He is, I believe, working with, or beginning to work with Tom Hughes on trying to get him some more detailed plans to present to us, and he has not able to do that yet, so he's asking for continuance.
Okay. Anybody want to make the motion?
I make a
All right,
motion.
Dan made the motion. Dan and Bill, one of you seconded and one of you firsted. Great. Bill, what do you vote?
Yes.
All right, Dan.
Yes.
And Kevin.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, great. Let's move on. That was a little bit rushed, I admit, but hopefully we'll get to the end of the list. We have Paul Leone, 62 Old Point Road, DEP to be determined. Still no DEP number. A continued NOI to replace an existing shed attached to a one-family residence with a permanent one-story addition. Oh, and the applicant has requested that they be allowed to withdraw their application. Bill Holt, that's still true?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay.
That would be withdrawn without prejudice. Bill?
Did they give a reason? Do we care?
Yeah, they after consideration of the previous meeting, they tried to change their design plan to meet the 2-foot setback, and that wasn't going to work. Keeping it at the same elevation wasn't going to work, and they knew they weren't going to be allowed to lower it, so they kind of felt that they were not going to be able to satisfy the board's requirements, so they want to withdraw and abandon the project, I guess, at this point. So.
Okay. So do we vote to accept their withdrawal? I don't know how that works.
They must follow through.
Just like, do we just shrug our shoulders? I don't know. Like Peter, do you have any sense of the right?
It would just be withdrawal without prejudice. Motion to withdraw without
Yeah, and then withdraw without prejudice on a motion, a second, and a vote. Yeah.
So moved.
All right.
Seconded.
Okay. Bill Lord.
Yes.
All right. Daniel.
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin. Peter.
Yes.
And I also say yes. Okay. Then they are withdrawn. Let's see, moving on. We have the town of Newberry, 14th Street, DEP number to be determined. A continued NOI from February 18th of 2020 to improve the right-of-way and construct an emergency access driveway to be continued until September 15th. Bill, was that actually on the agenda, or is that just a placeholder?
It's a placeholder. Basically, we need to keep that on and continue it so that people are aware that it's being continued. I think that was something that fell off the agenda last meeting. So until we get notified that they're ready to proceed, it's going to be continued probably again.
Okay. So do we need to vote on that one too? If we knew they weren't going to be here. All right.
Move to continue.
A lot of empty votes.
Second.
All right. One motion. Second. All right. Bill Lord.
Yes.
Thank you. Daniel.
Yes.
All right. Kevin.
Yes.
And Peter.
Yes.
All right. And yes for myself as well. So that's punted till next month. What's next? What do we have? We have Christine M. Coolstring, B2W LLC, 1 Plumbush Downs, DEP number 050-1332, a continued NOI to remove an existing structure and replace with a single-family home elevated on pilings and associated site work. All right. And who do we have here for that today?
This is Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental.
All right, Tom. Hi.
How you doing? All right, we'll try to be a little more efficient on this one. So we've submitted an updated plan, which I'll share with you, trying to address the concerns that were made by the commission. If somebody could allow me to share.
Yeah, let me get you share. Okay, you should be good, Tom.
He's also muted.
Oh, hold on.
Can press
There you go.
A. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, can you hear me now?
Ken.
Okay,
Mhm.
excellent.
Yep.
So that's just a cover email. All right, so this is the plan update. A couple things to note. We've changed over the erosion control to the Filtrex Natural. So that is a canvas or a burlap type of exterior and a compost interior. So it's biodegradable completely. We also are backing that with an orange construction snow fence, and that is for the purpose of helping to clearly establish the limit of any machinery and to help to trap any kind of wind-blown litter during the whole construction process. The other thing we've done is we've added utilities. We've added some notes. So notes such as, here's the Filtrex Natural, all construction equipment to operate upland within existing within the existing building footprint. So, you know, keeping equipment from going into the marsh. Contractor is going to inspect the site daily for litter or debris and, you know, beyond the limit of work line. During exterior construction, all dumpsters covered when the site is not occupied. And then just in case they need to throw any ladders up anywhere outside of the erosion control barrier, it would have to be on a mat, and that would have to be daily. So there'd be no matting or ladders left for any length of time. It would just be, you know, for some quick work, and then that would be removed until they need to get back up there. So we also, in the email that I sent, I detailed the demolition practice. So the demolition practice is essentially all glass and porcelain fixtures, things like that, are removed from the structure prior to demo, and then it is essentially collapsed onto the first floor. And as they collapse it, they're removing it, putting it into dumpsters or trucks, and getting it off site. And once they get down, so the first floor is cleaned up, depending on the condition of the floor, they either grab the floor with the excavator and pull it out in chunks, or they actually get in with the Sawzall and cut it into sections and then grab that. And that comes out. Tarps are placed strategically during the process to make sure that anything that could potentially fall outside of the building envelope is captured. And when it's all said and done, site is clean. So it's not the first time a sensitive demo has been done, and it's one that what I would envision would be a topic of discussion during the pre-construction meeting with the agent as well. But we have sort of detailed that process on how it would be done. So I think that addresses everything the commission. So the other thing, the propane tanks have been labeled as to be properly anchored, and my understanding is they get lashed to the pile. This is similar to other ones at Plumbush and elsewhere. We can't put it up on an elevated platform, the problem being that then the propane company has has to go up 7 feet to fill the tanks, and it becomes a really big platform, set of stairs. We've also added an AC compressor that can be elevated up, so that's actually on the side of the house back here in the upland area. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or address any concerns.
All right, thanks, Tom. Bill, let me turn the floor back to you.
Yeah, I reviewed the plans for all the changes made, and I don't have any other comments. I think he's addressed everything, so I'll hand it back to you.
All right, that was easy. These are pretty busy plans. You know, Tom, could you maybe unpack a little bit? You've got the sand, the pea stone, the proposed clamshell or other pervious walkway on top of, you know, there's a grayed out walkway and then the hard gray driveway. Sort of which is which and which are coming out and which are going in and all that jazz.
All right, so there's an existing drive that is kind of a little bit overgrown because the site hasn't really been used much in the last, you know, several months. But basically, what you're seeing here are existing conditions. There's still pea stone left in this area, and so the gray area is a proposed clamshell or other pervious driveway. We believe it's going to be clamshell, but we wanted to leave the option of another pervious material that would be acceptable to the commission in that area. And this is an area of sand that was delineated on the project. But this whole thing would be the same surface in gray. It would walk you over to the stairs. It would take you up. To remind you, the commission, the wetland boundary, which is within the filled area, but salt marshes are very persistent things. If the tidal range can get in there often enough, you'll start getting salt tolerant plants to come in, and that's what this line represents. What you would normally think of as the more true Spartina type thing is actually a little further out, but this is by definition a salt marsh area. Cuts into the corner of the house right here, and the what happens under the structure is kind of unknown, but then the salt marsh comes out here and goes along. And again, this is an area of fill along the side of the road, but it is actually a little bit more, the vegetation has really taken it over pretty beautifully, but the Spartina is more down in this area down here. So again, to remind the commission, we had discussions with the Army Corps, and these green areas are cantilevered to provide 2-to-1 width or height to width. So you know, they're elevated up in the air significantly enough that the Army Corps is comfortable that we'll have vegetation surviving and no salt marsh impacts underneath those. So what you see for a footprint was something that was carefully thought out, and we worked with the Army Corps on the salt marsh thing, and I had met with Doug a couple times on this to discuss concepts early on. It's a very tight site. It's the one you've all seen at the end of Plumbush Downs that really is in need of replacement. And I think we've come up with a really sensitive plan that doesn't overdevelop the site, and yet, you know, is a workable footprint for construction.
Okay. I had expected you to take that in a different direction, but that was good information anyway. Okay. The direction I was actually expecting that to go had more to do with, you know, the existing driveway footprint. Is that because where you've got the pea stone laid out, and then you've got the proposed clamshell? Does the proposed clamshell parking area, is that going to be expanding what I presume is the existing parking area where the pea stone is called out?
No, it's actually tightening it up. The pea stone is just so overgrown that it's not identifiable. And then there's sort of a sand area. But if this area is pretty hard packed down all the way back to about here. And I think people have typically just parked all over this whole area. And I think actually where, let me see what I've got for photo to show you that. Actually, you can actually see the whole bunch of stuff going on right in here. There's a vehicle parked in this photo right behind my arrow, it looks like. I guess, where was my photo sheet? Oh, there, okay. So here's a shot. Here's where the salt marsh comes in, but you can actually tell looking at the ground here. People have parked on here. This is pretty hard packed, but it just hasn't been occupied enough for this to have been called out as a as existing drive because it's overgrown. So we're trying to not have that whole side of the structure be driveway. We tried to keep it, and if we go back to the site plan, we tried to keep it so that there would actually be a little bit of upland outdoor space. Because if we were to extend the driveway kind of right up along the side, then it really leaves you nothing on this property upland other than right here in front of the structure, you know, which is right up against the turnpike and right up against the entrance to Plum Bush. This gives a little bit of a private side yard area for folks.
Okay. It's good to know. I think maybe I should just, you know, what was the old driveway? Where was the old driveway? Could you just sort of trace it with your cursor?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a lot of these older driveways. There was sort of the more well-worn driveway was about where this gray area is. It actually went over a little bit more this way. And it looks like people also parked along here. But it's obvious that there was sort of maybe when they had guests or whatever, but this was also used as driveway going all the way back here. And again, I think that did show on that aerial, but the problem is my little arrow is right in front of it. You know, you could see there was plenty of stuff parked there. And now, you know, this sort of debris scattered, and it's you know, the glory days of this current site are gone by. So it's tough to give you an exact driveway. It's not, you know, these old dirt driveways don't define themselves well. But you can tell from that photo, which was taken right in this area, right in here, that ground has been driven on and packed pretty tight.
Yeah, you know, my concern has a little bit to do with, like you said, it's kind of this amorphous blob, but, you know, if we return to this plan at some point in the future, you know, there's nothing on it to say, you know, what was old and what was new and what, you know, is a one-to-one replacement, you know, that kind of conversation about the driveway. It just looks like you're laying the driveway down kind of out of thin air on paper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep in mind that this is buffer zone. This is not subject to the same dune vegetation standards. We're not on the barrier beach, so that we're not subject to that whole have to swap it one-to-one with vegetation. The intent.
No, I just, you know, it's
so the intent
leaves room for questions.
Right. So first of all, you know, we will have to survey what's built, and it will have to meet these lines. Right. We could agree certainly to do some kind of edging on this so that it's more defined and it doesn't have an amorphous creep. And then these areas back here would be vegetated, you know, with, you know, likely lawn and be an outdoor recreation area.
Bill Holt, do you mind reminding me, or Tom Hughes, you know, this NOI, what are we talking about? Just the demo work or the construction work? I mean, I read it.
It's the whole thing. We're looking to
remove existing and replace with a new single-family home.
Right.
All right. So then, are there any more plans in terms of, you know, what's going to go in, the stuff you're just addressing with any of the vegetation, any of the landscaping type items?
No, but we could submit for review and approval at a later date the landscape element. I think the thing is when you're working on a site like this, we're so focused on the house and the house footprint that we really haven't detailed that out yet. And we would certainly incorporate some native plants in there, and so if the commission would be okay with it, if we could have as a, you know, submit for review and approval at a later date the landscape plan for the area behind the driveway and perhaps the area between the new house and Plumbush Downs and Plum Island Turnpike in here. We could certainly do that.
Yeah, just for myself personally, you know, I like it's a lot on one plot. It's a lot on one plan, you know, and to break it up into a couple of pieces might have made it a little simpler on my eyes.
Okay.
But that's just me. So here, yeah, let it go out to the commission. Bill, Bill Lord, do you have any commentary?
No, I'm good with the plan.
Okay. Daniel?
Questions?
Okay. Kevin?
No, I think I'm all set too.
Okay. And Peter?
No questions.
Okay. So then it seems like things are addressed. Bill Holt, I presume that you're going to want to have some kind of pre-construction, like be there every day type conversation and writing that into your orders. And that seems reasonable. I think Bill Holt, the conversation I just had with Tom, you know, you can write that up the way you see fit in terms of getting, you know, more visuals or more, you know, some spec details about having them come back to talk about the plantings and the arrangements. And you know, I'll leave that to your discretion. I think you got the point. Do we have any abutters, Gretchen?
Looks like not.
Okay. Well, it looks, all of the senses, it smells like you've addressed the things you were talking about. It sounds like the construction, the deconstruction is on the right path. You know, there's nothing else on my mind. So I think the commission sounds ready to make a motion and make some votes. Does that sound about right? Anybody want to correct me or make me correct by having a motion?
I can make a motion that we approve the NOI as written.
Second.
Right. With the addendums that Bill is going to write in, with his specific conditions. I just heard crickets. Did anybody else hear crickets? I actually heard crickets.
I think that's my house. Nope, I'm on a screen porch.
Your timing is fantastic. Does anybody want a second, or does the cricket enjoy their?
No, there was a second. I think you just didn't hear it.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. All right, well then, let's do the vote. Bill Lord.
Yes.
Okay, Daniel.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
And Peter.
Yes.
All right, and yeah, I'm also gonna vote in the affirmative. And then, yeah, and then Tom, any of those planned issues and maybe coming back to us and whatnot, you know, I'll let Bill write that into the conditions and he can work that out.
Right. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a good plan.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you very much for the vote. And you know, we'll look forward to seeing this thing actually get constructed. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, what do we have coming up next? Where'd my agenda go?
I think it's of compliance now.
Yeah, whoa, we made it to the end. We're alive. Brilliant. All right, certificates of compliance. We have one for Peter Tchaikovsky at 44 Old Point Road, DEP number 050787, which Bill went out and re-inspected today.
And it's not ready.
Nice job, Bill.
It's not ready, so we gotta pass that over till I get a hold of him and see what's going on.
All right. Is it really not ready, or is it just a little not ready?
It's the same as it was, and you know, I don't know why he's not doing it. I'll have to give him a call and find out what's going on, because he was in a rush for it, and then all of a sudden he just kind of let it go. So
okay,
I'll get a hold of him, see what's going on with it.
And then we'll move on to the next one for Christine Ruff, 67-69 Newburyport Turnpike, DEP number 0501302. What's the story with that one?
That one actually came in back in June. It was a restoration area that was required. And Doug and I went out and looked at it in June, and it was that hot spell, and it hadn't really taken very well. So we informed the owner that she should start watering it and getting it to giving it some refreshment so that it would take and fill in. And I went back on Thursday actually, and it looks pretty good now. It's up to 70% plus. It's in good shape, so I think it's ready for a sign off. So it should be in good shape.
Okay. Any concerns? What was the drought, that if we approve the COC that she's got to stop watering because she probably shouldn't be anymore?
I think it's reasonable. Yeah, it's really filled in really well, so I think it's fine. I think hopefully she'll keep watering. I can give her a call and let her know when she picks up her thing that she should keep watering. I can keep an eye on it a little bit to make sure, but hopefully we're getting to spring and to fall, and it will start to rain a little more.
All right. Well, if you're content with it, anybody interested in making the motion?
Move to issue the certificate.
Second. We have a first, and Peter's. Yeah, there we go. Seconded. All right, here we go. Round the horn. Bill Lord.
Yes.
All right, Daniel.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote in the affirmative. All right, so then moving on, we have extension. We have an extension permit. Sunrise Sunset LLC at 2 Northern. Yeah.
I just do we have to vote on that first certificate of compliance to not give the certificate of compliance?
No, because that you can just skip over.
Okay.
The COC.
Official.
Yeah. It's weird like that. All the other things we have to vote to do things with, whether we're doing something or not, and certificates of compliance for whatever reason you can just leave on the table.
Okay.
But thanks for checking. I mean, I've done it a few times already. All right, so extension permit, Sunrise Sunset LLC, 2 Northern Boulevard, DEP 050-1233. This is a request for an extension permit for an order of conditions dated June 7th, 2017. The order of conditions was to expire on June 7th. However, due to Governor Baker's declaration of a state of emergency, the expiration will not occur until the 45th day after the end of the state emergency is declared. And so as such, it is appropriate to honor the request And Bill is suggesting that we extend the order of conditions for another 3 years until June 7th of 2023. All right, so Bill, you want to talk about that a little bit? The declaration of a state of emergency, is that from back in February or March when COVID happened?
Yes, March, it was Chapter 53, an act such thing related to COVID-19, in which they outline that all permits will not expire. They will stay in place until the end of the emergency is declared, and then 45 days after that. So there's no need to. You can't call him on it expiring during that time frame. He actually, if you recall, I don't know if you recall, back in July, he actually came to us and asked for that, but he asked for the wrong one. He had two order conditions. He had file number 050-1211, and he had file number 050-1233. He asked for 1211, and when I looked that one up, it had already expired prior to COVID-19. So at that one, I asked you to actually deny his extension. Turns out that was actually that was already signed off. He already had his COC for that one. He had just referenced the wrong one, and I wasn't aware there was a second one. So when I found out there was a second one, I said, "Get the wrong one, resubmit it," and I think I can, we can probably approve it now because of the COVID-19. This happened to fall in that date, so I think it's, again, it's appropriate to extend it since he's asking for it now. He could wait until after the COVID-19 emergency is over and then ask for it, but I think he wants to, bite the bullet now, get it done. So.
Okay. That makes sense. Well then, is there any thing we need to discuss about that, Bill, or you're just happy enough to take the vote and extend it?
Yeah, I think that's no more. I don't think there's any discussion required. I think the permit's for a deck we hadn't put on yet, so there's some other work on the site.
All right, cool. All right, well then, anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve extension.
Second.
All right, and do we have a second? Oh, we have a second. Great. So round the horn. Bill Lord.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Okay, so that's done. And moving down the agenda, no emergency certificates, no reissuances, other business. Tom, you're on other business. What's this about?
Okay, so I asked to get on other business. This is something a lot of you relatively newer members may not remember. This is a fairly common occurrence where when you run into a design issue that you need to figure out before you go forward with all the more expensive permitting stuff, we need to get feedback from the commission. And let me share my screen if you don't mind. Okay, so this is 1050 2nd Street. It's actually mapped within the AE9 floodplain, but what you see on this plan are a bunch of spot grades, and the entire lot is actually above the flood elevation. And Sharon Brainer and Leah McGavern, Leah is Sharon's architect, are on here with me as well. But so it's a fairly small house, and what Sharon is trying to do is actually make it function for her and do a small addition within the footprint of this deck. The problem is with this structure, its first living floor is at grade. And one of the things you guys have probably not run into, but you're allowed, if you don't exceed the 50% under the building code, you are allowed under the building code to do a lateral expansion. And typically what the DEP has allowed is you couldn't do a lateral expansion at grade. And I think you had somebody else earlier that withdrew their application because they realized that. But they will allow you to step up into a first floor expansion with as minimal an impact on the grade as possible. So we currently have a means of egress into the basement. What we're trying to do is get that to connect to the addition. It's an elevated addition and it's a second floor addition, but we need to be able to connect the two things. This is just a survey that confirmed those dates. So here's what we came up with. This is a 3x7 at grade base of the stairway, and then the stairway immediately goes up and gets the entire addition elevated up in the air. But it's this 3x7 connector that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because if it seems to be a non-starter with the commission, then the project really can't go forward. And I'll have Leah explain why there's no other way to do that. This is right across the street, and this is on a project I permitted under the same rules and regulations that you're acting on now. And this is an enclosed stairway to access a brand new structure. And the pad on the ground is of an equivalent design and size is what we're talking about on this thing. I think Dan may be the only member who was on when we permitted this, but not 100% sure. I don't know, Dan, do you remember that one?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, base in front, anyhow. So where we're at is, and there's another picture of it, and I guess, and I'll show you the other thing. This, at grade, it also has a little step that kind of comes out. So it's actually a bigger impact than we're looking at. So again, here's where the two-story addition, but really the first story is the stairway. We're not really looking at doing something under. And I think what I'd like to do is the way DEP has typically looked at these things, and they do look very closely at them because of the whole 2-foot separation, is that you have to make the minimal transition that you can make to get up to be 2 feet above when you have an existing structure that is non-compliant. And that's what we're trying to deal with, is that transition. So I don't know if you can unmute Leah, and I think maybe, I don't know, Leah, if Leah wants to take over my control or share her files directly. But Leah, do you want to jump in? Leah?
Well, here, let me interrupt before Leah comes on.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to clarify what we're doing, why, in manner of speaking, why are you asking us?
Well, because
like Bill Holt is there,
right. Well,
and
so we met.
Like his job is to handle this kind of thing.
Right. Well, we met with the building inspector and Bill, and what came out of that meeting is the building inspector believes he can approve this, but he said, obviously, depending on what the Conservation Commission says. Bill's doing an awesome job, but he's only been on the job a couple months. And this is one of those things where, we could get Bill's feedback and we could file the NOI, but then if we go into the NOI and you guys all shake your heads and say, no, not a chance. So we're in here to get informal feedback, and we often do that with projects. And it usually is very helpful, because the next step after, the architectural plans are done is now we have to get into a civil site plan and really get into stuff that starts costing money to put together a notice of intent and really come before you.
Well, what about an RDA? Like, Tom,
Well,
to me, this feels like an RDA.
Right. So the thing is, an RDA has specific categories, and getting informal feedback from the commission is not one of them. So I know what the result of a properly filed RDA would be. It would be a positive determination that we need a notice of intent. You can't, maybe during the hearing process, you might give us advice, but we know we need a notice of intent. So what we're trying to do is just get some level of comfort from the commission or discomfort so we can make an informed adult decision before going forward and spending Sharon's money further to get there. So we're just trying to get some feedback, and the other category on the agenda, this is what it's been used for historically on this commission, and again, I'm not sure how much of that's happened recently, but it is something that is fairly common. In fact, Doug would often
Okay.
add things.
Now we've got
Same
that
day.
settled.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's turn this over. Let's see, Sharon, what have you got?
Or Leah,
So
actually.
Leah's my architect.
Sorry, Leah.
So I'll let Leah do that.
Yeah, hi. I mean, I really don't have much to say, except that this is a very modest home. It's one of the more modest, especially when you compare them to some of the newer things that are built on the island. And really all that we're trying to do is take an interior stair, which is really plunk in the middle of the floor plan, and put it to the exterior so that the floor plan can be more workable, and so that you can gain a little bit of space. And the difficulty here is that by removing the stair from the outside or the inside of the existing livable area, is that we still need to connect the lower floor to the upper floor, which means that there is just no way that the stairwell cannot touch grade in order, because you just have to get in, you have to step on grade in order to enter the basement, essentially, which is essentially a first floor. So we've done it a gazillion different ways, and the only way we can actually do this is with just the lightest touch on the ground of a 3'7" pad. I mean, that's really all there is to say. And I'm happy to address any of your questions about it, but it's a really pretty simple proposal.
Right, and I might add,
Well,
it's not, in my view, it's not much different than some of the exterior enclosed stairways that have been approved, such as the one across the street. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there.
Do you, Tom, you said you did that project. Do you have the files for that?
Yeah, it was closed out with the COC. It was a 2013, but the regs haven't changed. Neither the bylaw nor the Wetland Protection Act have changed in any way that would affect those projects. It's 27 Basin Street. And I can, yeah, I have the notice of intent that was filed, and I have the COC that went in.
Okay. Bill Holt, I just asked that. Maybe I should have asked you first, but I know that we've had some trouble with the filings. Is that one that we have in the office?
We may. I don't know what number, what DEP number it is. From DEP number 1000 back is what we have very few of those files. They were destroyed due to wet.
Right.
But if it's after DEP number 1000, we might still have it. 2013, it sounds like we may still have that one. We may be able to pull that from our files.
Yeah, let me take a look and see if I have that right here. Let's see.
Yeah, Tom, if you could share that with Bill, that would probably be helpful.
Right.
In terms of how we want to advise on this one, the non-binding advice, I think the way I will do this is just sort of the way we've been voting. I will just go around alphabetically and let everybody have their commentary. But for myself, I feel like that 2-foot rule was pretty strict, and that person who, the project that was withdrawn, arguably, they had a better reason for getting an exception to the 2-foot rule than this. They had a need to get plumbing into a space. So that feels like, if we said no to them, that would be kind of unfair to say yes to you. But that's just my feeling. So, Bill,
can I mention,
you want to go?
I'm sorry, can I just quickly mention the option that DEP would have allowed on a gentleman like that, but the problem is I think his house would have needed more work. He would have been able to do is to come out and step up to an elevated addition, but I don't think that worked with what he was trying to do.
The house wasn't built.
Would have been, right, those steps would have been within the 2 feet to get him up to that 2 foot above.
All right. So Bill Lord, do you have any thoughts?
Hello?
Yeah. Bill?
You know, if we've approved it in the past and we approved it across the street, I would think that, you know, with everything else being equal, we would be approving this.
Okay. Dan?
So just general question. I mean, it seems like this site it might be fenced in. It's already, that area is not functioning as a dune anymore. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah, there's no evidence of any sand movement on site, other than that Sharon just spread some sand out, you know, which is compatible sand, just to make it feel like there was some sand movement on site. But no, the area is you know, lawn, gravel. The area under the deck is gravel. It's right up against a solid foundation. And it's above the floodplain. So the reason for the 2-foot separation is the movement of sand in the dune system and the migration of sand, and in some cases the movement of floodwaters. And in this case, we're above the flood elevation, so it's really about movement of sand. And right up against the structure, there's really no sand movement you know, at all, because you've got a solid foundation right there. You know, this structure as it currently exists couldn't be built under the current standards. It would have to have that 2-foot separation. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take this addition and get the 2-foot separation as fast as we can. It's that transition. The difference between this and the other project that we spoke about in terms of the transition is normally what you're doing is you're just coming out of that ground floor and stepping into your new first floor addition that's off to the side. We're actually coming out and stepping up, and we're also coming in another door to make this transition so it actually works. But it's very similar in terms of footprint. And the one I showed you was actually on a brand new house. So it was deemed compliant to have an at-grade entry on there. So, you know, and if you drive around and you look at some of the newer structures, I didn't have time to drive around Plum Island and look, but there are plenty of sort of at-grade doorways that get you right into a stair. And a lot of those are more like 4x3, right? You know, just the width of the stairway touching the ground. And you have to have, I think, a 3-foot landing there. So you're allowing, you know, utility chases and things like that in the 2-foot all the time. But it is a hard and fast rule that, you know, we couldn't add on to the whole first floor here and come right out. That's an absolute, can't do it. But with regard to this, you know, if we even just stepped up right there, we can't, because it doesn't work with second floor elevation at all. So we have to come out and do this kind of a configuration. And as Leah said, she's been through the ringer on approaches and designs, and as the, you know, consultant, I've asked her a ton of stupid questions. I'm sure from the architect's point of view, most of my questions were stupid, but trying to push the envelope and try to come up with, you know, some way to get this done where we didn't have it on grade at all. It's just no way of getting it to work. So typically, as I said, DEP has acquiesced for the minimal transition possible. But I would file an NOI, you know, we may have to deal with some back and forth with DEP over it. But I just wanted to make sure that, you know, there wasn't an immediate roadblock with the commission, I guess.
Okay. Dan, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, it sort of makes sense to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge impact in terms of the interest of the act. And I mean, I kind of, you know, think I could become more comfortable with it. I do kind of wonder if there isn't some other way to configure the thing so it was open. But I think really the intent here is to come up with a way to get from the ground floor to the second floor without going too high. So that, you know, I understand what you're trying to do. I'd like to hear
All
other.
right. Yeah, let's, if you're okay, Dan, then let's hear Kevin's thoughts.
I guess I mean, I don't know the house, but there's already a transition from the first floor to the second floor, isn't there? So is it the way the addition is added that it kind of ruins the way the stairs are used? I don't see why.
So, so I think Sharon can elaborate on what I'm going to say, but my understanding is so it's a small house, right? And the stairs come up right into the center, and the space is just totally non-usable. You know, Sharon's a single mom with some older kids in the household, and it just isn't working. And she's trying to create a situation where she has a kitchen that's workable and a floor plan that actually works. So in order to do that, she needs to get rid of that interior stairway. But also we need a means of egress into the bottom floor too. So we need to we're trying to kill a bunch of birds with one stone, basically. The stairway from the bottom to the top is one of them, and there is the means of egress into both the new addition on the second floor and the first floor. So Sharon, I don't know if you want to elaborate on how awful that stairway is. But.
Yeah, I mean, just as Tom said, it's a really small house. I have had the house for 10 years and continually have been trying to figure out, you know, how can I relocate these stairs and open up my house. It's just a small, every room is tiny. And what I've been dreaming to do is open up my kitchen and have an open concept. And the only way to do that is to relocate the stairs that go down to where my children's 2 bedrooms are and a family room downstairs. There is no place else anywhere because there's just a small living room, a bedroom, the kitchen. If I tried to move the stairs to the corner of the kitchen, I wouldn't have a kitchen. I mean, it's that tiny. So this is like my tiny little house and my dream to just have an open concept kitchen so I can have some more friends over in the winter and not just have people on my deck. I mean, seriously, this is why I have Tom and Leah, because they understand the rules, the guidelines. I don't have a clue. So it's really hard. You know, I drove around the island yesterday and I see all these new houses going up with such a similar stairwell. So it's really hard for me that's all I can say. I don't know if it's going to matter, but really there's nowhere else to move these stairs.
I mean, it does seem like a minimal impact. But I just don't know with the rules, you know, like Tom was saying, you know, you wouldn't be able to bump out the whole first floor, but there's got to be like a little bit of an exception to do what you guys are trying to do. I don't know enough of the rule, to be honest with you, to know which way that would go. But for me, I think it would be a minimal impact just visually looking at it. So I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Peter, any thoughts?
A couple. One is, it sounds like the precedent might have been set by something that was already done. The second, I'm kind of following Dan's lead, that it doesn't seem to impact the dudes, if I understand Dan correctly. And the third is a question that I'll ask Tom that I don't know if I should ask it, but I'll ask it. Since we do have an island with a couple of shared communities on it, has this come up in Newburyport?
The transition to an addition has come up before. I'm working on one right now where we're probably within the one end of the house, one room is actually going to have stairs within it, across it. We haven't applied for that one yet. It's just one of those things that it's come up. It doesn't come up frequently enough that I can think, okay, on this house, this would be a great example, but it does come up. My plan, if the commission seemed at least open to it, which, I mean, at least I feel like I'm at least getting at least maybe open to it from you guys. Somebody tell me if I'm getting the wrong vibe that way, is to at least try to reach out to DEP, to Rachel Freed, but during this whole COVID thing, it's very difficult to reach them and get any feedback. But the 2-foot separation actually comes from something that Doug, a gentleman named Paul Healy, who's on the Newberry Port Commission, and myself, who I used to chair Salisbury, referred to as a 3-town memo. DEP wrote a 3-town memo to the 3 of our towns, and it wasn't really a statewide thing. They just said, you have to have open fences, 2-foot separation, etc. Later, what happened is that was put into building code. So the 2-foot separation comes into the whole thing through the building code and the elevated structures. And then in the elevated structures, it has a little caveat, and it says that the elevation is determined by building code, has to be elevated to a certain thing or at an elevation set by the Conservation Commission. So you guys have sort of a little bit of influence on how the building inspector interprets the building code on the elevation of a structure. But that's mainly within a floodplain. On the barrier beach, the 2-foot standard has been something DEP has held to, but they have allowed things like on 42 Fordham, we got rid of a large foundation, and they allowed about a 10 by 10 at-grade lobby. Because again, it's the adverse effect to function that ultimately makes the argument. If you read through the Wetland Protection Act performance standards, it's all about, is what you're doing adversely affecting these things? And as you probably know, the language in the actual regs is kind of gray, and we all come in here with applications and try to make it sound as black and white as possible. But if you actually read those paragraphs and you look at how we're interpreting, those things have just evolved over time. And there is no black and white thing in any of your regulations that you have in front of you that say you have to have 2 feet. And in fact, if we were on a site near the primary dune and you went out and did a site visit and you got sand hitting you in the stomach, you'd have a right to say, something, we need more than 2-foot separation. And that's kind of the whole point of that is to make sure that what you're allowing doesn't interfere with how the dune functions. And I would put to you that I don't think this does. I don't know if that answers what you were asking. In terms of an actual other specific examples, this one was easy. I looked across the street and there's one right there that I permitted. But my gray mat is just not good enough anymore to be able to think back and go, yeah, this one, and this one.
So Tom, that one that you had, the one that was across the street, that was just a full-on elevated building though, right?
Yep, that was a full-on tear down rebuild. It has a utility chase and it has an at-grade entrance. And the at-grade entrance is fairly big. It's bigger than most for an at-grade entrance that have been approved by the commission.
So my understanding though is, so like that house that was across the street, the house that probably had a foundation was torn down. This house was built on piles, but then they had the chase and the entrance. And that was a benefit for the dunes. So in this case, there's no removal, there's just addition. So technically there's a negative effect to the dune. But the dune is questionable at this site from what I
Right. So I think we can.
I'm just trying to understand. Yeah.
Right. So in terms of sand movement, we're above the floodplain, right? So we don't have water moving sand through. The entire area surrounding this home, paved roadways on 2 sides and houses all around, right? So there's very little, if any, wind-blown sand that even makes it into this section of Plum Island. But we can mitigate and improve the dune function in other ways with the project. If we do go forward, we're only talking about one element of it right now. And if we do go forward, package together a notice of intent and come before you, I would look for ways to improve, vegetative cover. Maybe we would remove some lawn and put in some sand with some dune grass and actually get a little bit more dune site. We could try our best to mitigate.
Is there a shed or anything on the property?
Do you have a shed, Sharon? I'm trying to remember. No. Okay. So
I was thinking if you maybe removed a shed and you had that, then you're not.
Well, I think the driveway may be paved. Is your driveway paved, Sharon? You're muted. Can you just nod or?
I don't think her driveway's paved.
Oh, okay.
It's stone. It's stone. It's been that way since before I moved in.
Okay. I mean, we can look for ways to mitigate, and the thing is, since there's no windborne sand movement through here, I think that there's no adverse effect on the dune, really.
I agree, but I don't know if we've made that distinction before. Since I've been on the board, I don't know if we've made that distinction on Plum Island, you know?
Right.
So that'd be a hard for the commission to make that exception, you know?
Right. So, but now the performance standard that we're talking about is a Wetland Protection Act performance standard, not a bylaw one.
Yeah.
So if you guys were open to it, my next step would be to reach out to DEP.
Sure.
Keep in mind that DEP is going to issue comments on a notice of intent.
Of course, yeah.
Tom, I just want to add one other piece of information. I mean, this addition is on the existing footprint, so it's just replacing where there's already deck, and the town of Newberry doesn't make a distinction for footprint between deck or foundation. So there's also that piece.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right, and that's an important zoning distinction between Newburyport and Newberry. But I think, you know, I think if I've got enough of a feel, there's a little bit of discomfort, but at least you guys seem open to it. Is that a fair assessment?
I speaking for myself, yes.
Okay. Is that okay? So I mean, you guys, at least we may get off the line 15 minutes before your last meeting. So I think where I'd like to leave things, I think I've got enough feedback from you guys now that we can reach out to DEP, and if we can get some comfort from DEP, then we certainly would apply for a notice of intent. And if we can't get any feedback from DEP, then I think we may still file for that, but I'll look for good opportunities for mitigation. I'll go visit the site and see what we could do to try to enhance dune function on site, and come in and just, you know, see where it goes. So.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, and send that the file you have to Bill,
Right.
and then Bill, when you get that, if you don't mind, maybe giving Doug a call and seeing what he remembers about that.
I can do that.
You know, and
I'll
see if you
check
can
our
jog
files.
his memory with paperwork.
Yeah, and I'll check our files too. I think we may have it, so we'll take a look.
Right, and it was 1024, I think, is what I figured out. So you said you
might just have it.
4,000. It's right close. But I'm sure I can compile it together. I don't think back then I was compiling my PDF, so I'll have to assemble it for you if, you know, but I'll get it to you. And there are others. I need to maybe spend a day driving around. If I can find other examples, I will. And we'll certainly include examples in our.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Hey, and Bill, one more request for you. Next time you have a chance to talk to somebody at DEP, whether it's our circuit rider or somebody else, do ask if, in a manner of speaking, if you're allowed to write in reasons for an RDA, because this feels like the kind of thing that should be done in an RDA, but the checkboxes don't address this kind of thing. You know, I'd be curious to know if they have an opinion on that.
I will ask it.
Yeah. If I may, it's built into your fee structure to request to get on other business, and historically this part of the agenda, and I think Dan can probably attest to this, you've been on long enough, this part of the agenda has been used quite a bit for this type of thing, just to try to get some information back and forth. And so, you know, we paid that fee that's in your fee structure for this request, and we understand it's non-binding. It's just to kind of get a feel from you guys.
Yeah, I just dislike the conversation with the non-binding, and it feels, it feels a little bit awkward. That's all.
Well, no, I absolutely wish there was a thing I could check off on the RDA and say, you know, interpretation of a particular regulation, yes or no. I would have done it in a heartbeat, but it just doesn't exist. So this is the next best thing we can do.
Right. And that's why I asked Bill if you could do like a write-in, like write your reason and make your own checkbox, or if DEP would be cranky about that. Because with Plum Island, everything's a little different to begin with. Maybe they'd be okay with that. All right. Well then, it sounds like you've got a plan, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a long night.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, good night.
Night.
So that's everything off of the regular agenda. Lovely. The last thing, I know I've been speaking on and off with various, whether it was Dan or Ben or Doug or Bill about working out the bylaw that we have and trying to do some new things with it. And I think maybe rather than trying to shoehorn it into these meetings, it might be worth sort of just setting a night aside to do a dedicated meeting, just to talking about what people would want to see in the bylaw, how they would like to open it up to try to bring something else together, what they would like in it, how, if you want to be involved in it or not. Do we want somebody from Board of Health? Do we want somebody from planning? Do we want to grab a selectman? Do we want, how to structure this and how to move forward would be sort of just the questions I'd like to go through. I know I have an interest in it and I have some ideas, but, it needs to be a broader coalition to make it anything useful or worthwhile. And so sort of addressing some of those questions, if you guys are up for it, picking another date and time to just sort of go through some of those questions. I feel like that would be a good move.
I think we definitely.
But the floor is open for anybody else.
We can't add it to the meetings because these are already going longer than any of us want.
Which brings up a question that I'd like to just pose. The planning board meets twice a month. The reason we meet twice a month, we have a lot of activity, and I try to keep the planning board meetings ending by 9:30, because after that, the fatigue factor is just too great. Our last meeting was brutal. We're coming up on 10 o'clock. And, that's a long time for people. 11 o'clock. That's a long time for people to be focused. It's fatiguing on the board. It's fatiguing on staff. It's tired on applicants to wait around. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Should we consider twice a month meetings? Keep them to 9:30. That's how you do business. And that's life. And everybody knows it, rather than being brutalized.
I'm okay with that. That's fine with me. And then maybe that opens things up where maybe if we have our second meeting, every once in a while we have an empty schedule. It does happen rarely, but yeah, I'm open to that. So, all right. So Peter wants to do more than one a month. I'm good with that. Dan and Kevin and
just want to mention,
Dan.
You have the 21-day window. So I think a lot of commissions actually go every 3 weeks. And then I don't know, I've never figured out how we get around, we got a notice of intent. We're supposed to have the hearing within 21 days. So I don't know how that's been finessed. That's what it's been going on, I think. But that might be, it's less than twice a month, which might be helpful, but I just throw that out.
That'd be a great starting point, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a lot of places do the first and third, so that when there's a fifth week in the calendar, they skip that one and they go to the next first week. So first and third, second and fourth, and then you get every once in a while you get an off week. All right. So Dan, that sounds like you're open to an extra meeting.
I think it's got to be happening at a separate meeting. It's just non-regulatory issues.
Oh, I know. So are you open to doing a conservation bylaw meeting, or are you talking about Peter's point?
Either.
Both. Perfect.
We've already got, when's the next meeting now? We're gonna,
next week?
Next Monday.
The one for the subdivision?
Yeah. That's Monday.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. Bill Lord, you still there?
Yes.
Maybe not. Bill Lord, check, check.
No.
Well, all right. Bill's connection died. Okay. All right. So then it sounds like let's do that. So if we want to do this bylaw thing, you guys good for what, like the first week in September maybe? Or the third week in September or some other thing? And then maybe Bill Holt, you can put out an email about scheduling. I don't know, Peter, if we can just do this on our own or if we have to go through anything, like go through town council or town anything, or if we can just decide to do this on our own.
I don't know, but I think staff can work that out and then send out emails and questions
Yeah.
and survey.
So Bill Holt, if you can sort of look into that and make sure that we can just do this on our own if we can, that'd be great.
Yep.
And if we need to dot any I's or cross any T's, we can do that in the next meeting.
Kevin, you okay?
I'm good. Just getting tired.
Oh yeah, man. I zoned out pretty hard. It's okay. Okay, so then to do the bylaw, do you guys want to rush it or let it wait? Like, do you want to do in September and like early? Do you want to like go to late September or October and sort of get some materials and read through them? Or
Last year, it slowed down quite a bit towards the fall. If, like,
right.
The,
Yeah, the building season ended.
The agenda was less. So I think it might make sense just to push it off till then. Because if we start doing 2 meetings, I think we push it off to like October, something like that. That might make sense.
All right. So then, Bill Holt, could you maybe have a look at the calendar, maybe that first week in October, and I don't know, see if there's a day that works better, you know, from the town perspective. And if you want to invite any relevant individuals who you think might be interested, you know, whether from the planning or the select angle or the Board of Health angle, and you know, they could all be there for that conversation perhaps. And that would give them enough of a lead time to be present.
You want to keep it basically town only, not anyone from the private?
Let's start in-house.
Okay.
And get our ducks in a row, so to speak. I think I just want to sort of do the procedural part first and let the town departments have their say. And then if they are all interested in including industry or private or just citizens, that's fine. But just it'll be a lot easier to schedule that first meeting by just sort of keeping it smallish.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, team. Good job, guys. That's 2 big meetings in a row. It was well done.
I'm hoping the next one's small.
Move to close the meeting.
I know.
Second.
Good job, Kevin. Thank you. I think Daniel seconded. So all in favor? Aye.